She was the wife of patient Zero, a 70-year-old Dutch man who died on board the MV Hondius that was travelling from Argentina to Cape Verde. His body was removed from the vessel at St. Helena Island. According to reports this week, the body of the third deceased is still on board the cruise liner. Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says although this particular strain can spread from person to person, it's rare and requires close contact. The illness is usually transmitted to humans from rodents. Camry Clark, Eyewitness News.
We move to this EWN special feature. The Gauteng Cooperative Governance Department says the troubled Mfuleni municipality does not yet warrant being placed under administration again. This follows a series of service delivery failures raised by Eyewitness News following a return visit to the area, with communities continuing to face, among others, erratic water and electricity supply. In the Bitumelo Township, residents told Eyewitness News they're living in dire conditions, sharing homes with raw sewage and dangerous creatures like snakes and crabs. Nkosikona Malingamnisi has more.
The Boitumelo housing development, built in the late 1990s to provide safe and dignified housing, has deteriorated into unsafe living conditions. Serious underground water intrusion linked to its location near floodline has left homes damp, unstable and unfit for habitation. Despite repeated promises to relocate affected families, many are still living in squalor. However, the Gauteng Cogta Department insists these challenges, including sewer failures and crumbling roads, do not yet justify placing the municipality under administration. Spokesperson Theo Nkonki says progress has been made in stabilizing Mfuleni, with early signs of improvement due to their interventions.
What we are doing now, we are happy with what we are seeing. It looks as though something is coming to light with regards to at least their water and sanitation part. And it's precisely because of the support, not the confrontation type of way of working.
He has, however, acknowledged residents' frustration over delays in achieving a fully functioning local government. Nkosikona Malingamnisi, Eyewitness News in Mfuleni.
Action SA has accused the city of Johannesburg of making unrealistic promises to its workers after National Treasury questioned whether the municipality will be able to afford its promised 10 billion rand salary increase. Earlier this year, the municipality struck a wage agreement deal with the South African Municipal Workers Union. The deal will see the municipality increase the salary of its employees across the board over the next 2 years at a cost of 10.3 billion rand. However, a letter from National Treasury addressed to Johannesburg Mayor Dada Morero has questioned whether this is financially feasible for the cash-strained municipality. Thabiso Goba has more.
In its letter, National Treasury labels the imminent 10 billion rand salary increases as, quote, unsustainable. Treasury says the current financial state of the city of Johannesburg means the executive has entered it into an obligation that's impossible to fulfill. Treasury says this is a violation of the Municipal Financial Management Act and has directed the municipality to stop with its implementation. Action SA Gauteng spokesperson Mongezi Tsebenzo says the letter confirms what the party has been saying for months, that the city of Johannesburg is in serious financial trouble.
And right now the situation is clear. The crisis is not resolved and urgent action is needed to protect both workers and residents. Action SA's position is clear. Workers must be treated fairly, but the city must not make promises it cannot keep.
Meanwhile, the DA in Johannesburg is challenging the wage agreement deal in courts. Thabiso Goba, Eyewitness News.
We move to the Western Cape, where at least one person has died due to stormy weather conditions in the province. A woman was killed when an uprooted tree fell on her car in Knysna. Persistent rainfall and strong winds have caused dozens of trees to uproot along the garden route, while flooding has also led to several road closures. The region's head of disaster management, Gerard Otto, is urging the public to be extremely cautious.
Unfortunately, this morning we had a fatality of somebody parked under a big tree and the tree collapsed. This current weather situation normally leads to some of the trees in the area being uprooted, specifically when we've got high winds.
Meanwhile, Western Cape Disaster Management says the evacuations are underway in the storm-hit Klastrum informal settlement in the Great Karoo. Head of Department Colin Dana says about 100 people have been moved to a community hall after floods damaged their homes.
We did have certain areas where there was quite a bit of damage, and we've had a bit of a challenge with people not wanting to evacuate their homes, but that's something that we generally get. But initially it was 15 families.
Gold's trading at $4,683.38 an ounce. The rand at 16.42 to the dollar, at 22.35 to the pound, at 19.30 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $102.60 a barrel.
In Leondale, the N3 South is closed off to traffic due to protests approaching Berry Marais. At this stage, you can expect about a 20-minute delay all the way from Heidelberg Road. We still have slow-moving traffic in Edenville, heading towards Bedford View, R24 westbound from Edenville Road to the Kululis interchange. Selby leaving the Joburg CBD also expect some delays. M2 west from the Crown interchange to Main Reef Road.
In your sport, Sipho Chain records his 18th clean sheet as Orlando Pirates beat Stellenbosch in the Bedway Premiership. Arsenal pushing to complete a historic double, having booked their spot in the UEFA Champions League final. And the IPL final moved from Bengaluru to Ahmedabad due to logistical issues.
A look at your weather. It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng with showers and thunder showers expected today. Temperatures are peaking at highs between 14 and 16 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says 42 of the 62 contacts linked to hantavirus cases have been traced.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
On Sunday, 26 July, 7:02 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk unites us all in the iconic Joburg CBD.
7:02
Walk the Talk. Abize bonke. Enter now on primemediaplus.com.
You're with John Perlman on 7:02.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
A very good afternoon, everyone. It's 9 minutes past 3 on Wednesday, the 6th of May. This is 702 Drive with me, John Perlman. Wherever you're listening to us in 702 land, welcome to the show. Lots to talk about today, including a leaked letter from the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, to the Executive Mayor of Johannesburg, Dada Murero, dated, I think, 23 April of 2026, has sparked a furious debate about the state of Joburg's finances. You heard Marky referring to it in the bulletin a moment ago. What does the letter actually say, and how worried should we be by both what's said explicitly and implicitly? More on that after 5. Can the government continue to ease the burden of the fuel price hikes with the month-by-month subsidies we've enjoyed 2 in a row now, or do we need a fundamental change in the way the price of petrol and diesel is calculated? Professor Dumisani Janchis from the University of Johannesburg believes this is urgent. We'll talk to him at 5:10, get a sense of what his ideas are. And as police announce another seizure of cocaine today, why does the port of Durban seem so central to the flow of drugs into South Africa? We had news a little bit earlier that you perhaps heard, 13 million rand of cocaine confiscated in eThekwini overnight. More on that with the organised crime expert Julian Rademeyer at 5:10. We end the show today as we do every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday by playing you some music. Today we are focusing our eyes on heavy metal.
So when you're waiting for the next attack, you better stand, there's no turning back. The fewer sounds, the time begins. But on this battlefield, no one wins. The smell of ice smoke.
I said we're focusing our eyes on it because for some people, focusing your ears on heavy metal can be a little bit difficult. But big celebration for the group Iron Maiden, who've been doing it literally for decades. We'll tell you a bit more about that later. So we thought we'd ask this simple question, but hopefully hotly contested in terms of answers. The very, very best heavy metal band in your view. Start sending us those, please, on 072 702 1702. On the markets, the JSE is on a tear today with the all share up by 3,360 points. That's a gain of 2.9%. That gain has been driven by the resources index. Those metals, anything but heavy today. Resources up by 4.4%. It's reflected in the gold price, up by $122.18, and in the platinum price, up by $60.22. That's a gain of 3.1%. Individual stocks benefiting from that, no surprises. Harmony up by 7.3%. Implats has gained 7.1%. Sibanye is up by 6.5%. Leading the losers, Sasol off by 6.8%. Tungela, the coal company, down by 6.4%. All of that, of course, connected to an oil price that is down by $8.10 today, with a barrel of Brent crude trading at $101.96. Still too high, but on the way down, we hope. Hopefully for a while. The rand is trading at 16.40 against the dollar, an improvement of 28 cents over the past 24 hours. A euro will cost you 19 rand 27. That's 23 cents better on our side. 22 rand 33 will get you a pound. The rand has gained 25 cents on sterling. Stephen Critters joins us with all the market news at 4:25. Sport with Tolakele Mganga, the Karabo Chale. Back to everyone's great delight, delivering the traffic news for us. And Maki Molapo joining us at 3:30 again with the latest news headlines. This is 702 Drive. We're live in the place where you live. And if it's happening in 702 land, you'll hear it here first. With your help, of course, contact us on 072 702 1702. Maybe there's a story that we've missed. Maybe there's a story we're covering, but we haven't got every angle we should. Either way, that number again, 072 702 1702 for your WhatsApps, and a call if you like. Call in a chat on 011 883 0702. 702 Drive, it's 13 minutes past 3.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
Yeah, so we hope to bring you all the big stories. I haven't mentioned all of them, but we'll update you as we go along, and keep an eye out, a close eye out for what is breaking or where there are new developments. But we also do like to talk about some of the kind of smaller things that also make up the fabric of life, and in many ways contribute to the country and the way the country moves forward and the way we feel about the country. Now, this little post on X caught my eye. It's not South African, but you'll understand perhaps in a moment why I'm telling you this. It doesn't really matter where this happened. It's more what happened. So here we go. The poster is someone called Unknown D. And I know as much about Unknown D as the name suggests, although I'll go on to X and see if I can find out more. But here's Unknown D's story. Whilst I was shopping in M&S, Marks and Spencer's, I would think 3 teens randomly came up to me and asked me if they should opt for carrot or red velvet cake. After being momentarily caught off guard, I suggested they go for the superior option, red velvet cake. Debatable, but let's pick up with Unknown D. I would have said carrot, but there we go. He goes on to say, I also offered to pay for the cake because they seem like good kids. I asked them, why are you getting a cake? Is it one of your birthdays? And they responded, no, we are just celebrating life. And he ends by saying, what a wholesome interaction. So what I took from that is those interactions that you have with complete strangers, and they don't have to be dramatic. The person who stops at 12:45 on a dark and rainy night and drives you home because you have a flat tire or whatever. Yes, feel free to talk about those big things, but just little interactions that you have with people that make you think, hey, I like people. And above that, I like South Africans. And you may say, I like Joburgers or people of Brakpan or whatever it might be. Your stories, please, on interactions that you've had with complete strangers that have filled your heart in some way or another. I have a story of my own. I will keep it in reserve because I want to hear, first of all, from you, Karabo Chale. Good afternoon. You'll give us traffic in a moment. But strangers warming your heart lately?
Not lately. It's actually many, many years ago.
Okay.
I just met my current girlfriend. So I was madly in love. She lived in Florida and I lived in Germiston. So I used to catch a train from Germiston station to Florida station to go check her, you know.
Yes.
Go check her. And then there was one day where I couldn't leave because I couldn't separate myself from her. So I stayed longer than I should have. So
Right.
the trains were all gone by the time I got to the train station. And there were two gentlemen there, and they were like, there's no more trains. What are we going to do? We're stranded. It's late. The taxis are also finished at this time. And obviously I couldn't go to her place because she was living with her parents. So now we're stranded. And then I was like, what are we going to do? And I suggested, why don't we just walk? I mean, it's three gentlemen. We're safe. I know it's a long distance, but hey, why not? And then we took this long walk. I think it took us like an hour or two, and we were just chatting along. I think
How fabulous.
We got to the Joburg CBD at about 11 o'clock or midnight, and then from there there's 24-hour taxis, and then we separated from there. But at least we got to our destination safely. And well, I mean, if we didn't have that conversation, what were we going to do? I was going to feel stranded. I was definitely not going to walk from Florida to the Joburg CBD all by myself. They were also going to that same direction. So, hey, we just thought, why not?
Did you swap numbers? I mean, in a funny way, you didn't need to, because what else was there to say?
Exactly. We were total strangers. We were probably never ever going to meet ever again.
What a fabulous...
But yeah, it was nice.
Fabulous
It was
story.
different age groups. So it was not even people who are my age. So, but we got along perfectly. We shared stories. So it was a fun walk.
Wow. Nice. There's a great short film in that, by the way. Reserve your rights. How about you, Kabazela? Good afternoon to you, producing the show with Rifue Litsua.
Afternoon, John, and the team in the 702 family. So it was back in 1999. Four of us were coming home from the Jaw. One mate was driving. We were coming up Constantia Kloof Hill. And my mate that was driving, I was in the front and he was driving. He said, look at these oaks in the back sleeping. Let's wake them up. So stupidly, he moved the steering wheel from side to side, which made the car veer a little bit. Then he did it again and he lost control.
Oh, my goodness.
And we ended up spinning and hit a lamppost and had an accident. Luckily, nobody was injured. And then the second person to arrive on the scene was a traffic policeman. And he was so sort of like really thoughtful, gentle about the situation that we had found ourselves in, particularly my mate who was driving the car. And he eventually at the end of the night said, listen, yokes, you're in enough already. Please get in my car and I'll drive you home. And this guy put us in the back of his police vehicle and drove us to the house that we were staying at that night.
Yes.
And made sure we got home safely and said, just take care of it. The tow truckers are, they'll do everything. And I took that experience and I thought, geez, what a nice guy. He didn't have to drive us home. But he was very kind and saw what was happening. So I'll never forget that moment with a complete stranger who was a traffic cop at the time.
So, great interactions with complete strangers. They can be as dramatic as my two colleagues have shared with you, or they can be something a little bit simpler, a conversation in a supermarket queue, but something that left you feeling, I'm in the company of strangers, but there's really good people around. Filled your heart, warmed your heart, call it what you like, but call us. That's the main point. 072 702 1702 and 011 883 0702. It's 20 past 3.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Okay, you don't have to walk, but we do have to drive. You do have to walk the talk and tell us what's happening in the traffic, please.
Yeah, well, at this stage in Leondale, there's a protest on the N3 affecting traffic in both directions, and this is heading towards Berry Marais. At this stage, you can expect about a 20-minute delay all the way from Heidelberg Road. In Houghton, traffic also sluggish. M1 South between Ethel Oakland and Jan Smuts Avenue. Look out for those faulty traffic lights in Kyalami at Kenilworth and Kyalami Boulevard. Traffic lights still not working. That's in the Bramley area. I'd call it in the M1. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Right, let's focus our attention now on Parliament, where the Minister of Social Development, CCC Tolashe, has been in Parliament in front of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee that oversees the work of her department, where she's facing questions about a number of controversies that have come up with her name associated with them. and in some instances, it's been suggested she's directly responsible for those controversies. Lindsay Dentlinger, our EWN reporter colleague, has been covering this closely. Lindsay, very good afternoon to you. What exactly was the minister asked to explain, and were there some areas that have been covered in the media that actually either weren't asked about or she refused to engage with?
Good afternoon, John. Well, really a long list of, as you put it, controversies, not only that relate to her personally and her and her family, but also matters related to appointments in her department, which in her personal office, which are also part of the series that Daily Maverick exposed last year already, and the Public Service Commission also before this committee today to reveal their findings, particularly in relation to those appointments that they were asked to investigate. So the minister tried to take MPs right through the whole list of it, including the very controversial matter of the cars and whether or not she misled Parliament for not declaring them. And she stuck to her guns on that particular one, saying she had not misled Parliament. She didn't get into the matter of how they ended up in the possession of her children, and saying that this was a party political matter for the party to deal with and for Parliament's Ethics Committee to deal with, and that she had already submitted an affidavit to them on that particular matter, John.
Lindsay, I mean, maybe I'm naive, but I would have thought these things are settled very, very quickly indeed. I mean, as I understand it, she said, I deposited this affidavit with Parliament's Ethics Committee. Surely a document is either produced or it isn't. Once it's been produced, it's checked for authenticity, and then you draw a line under the matter. I mean, did she bring forward the document or a copy of it? Did she call on ethics to produce the paperwork? Either, surely it exists or it doesn't.
So the Ethics Committee is not known for being the quickest, John, at dealing with these matters. And normally we see, if we're lucky, maybe once a quarter or once every 2 quarters, we get a summary of findings from the Ethics Committee. That's a closed committee here in Parliament. So we don't get to sit in on their deliberations, and we have no idea of, where they're at in these investigations. But I think what was particularly more scathing today was that Public Service Commission investigation chairperson Somadoda Fikeni pulling no punches about what they have found and the extent of what he called a web of deceit, the collusion that had taken place involving the minister's special advisor who was present in today's meeting, and a host of other officials who have since left and cannot be followed up in terms of taking disciplinary action against them. And the chairperson of the PSC saying he was very, very concerned when these kinds of appointments involve the Human Resources Department of a particular state department, that they are involved, saying that speaks to greater systemic issues. The minister telling the committee today that she has asked for an extension to respond to the findings in the report. And of course, her colleagues in the committee closed ranks as tight as they possibly could, John, to dismiss this report, to say that it was only preliminary, and to say that the minister's fitness to hold office could not be determined based on the findings of that report. So that was quite astounding to watch. But here's a clip of the minister once again reiterating her position on many of the issues that involved that ethics investigation here in Parliament, John.
Chair, I insist I did not mislead Parliament, and I still said I relied to the Ethics Committee to ventilate that. About the matter of cars, I'm not going to go back there. It talks to the fact that I did not mislead Parliament. So ethics should ventilate that as the members took the matter to ethics.
Yeah, thank you very much. Lindsay Dentlinger, her report there closed off by Social Development Minister CCC Tolashe. My understanding is that when she spoke about the cars that were destined for the ANC Women's League in this particular session, she did not explain how they ended up in the hands of her children. 26 minutes past 3.
John Perlman
on 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's focus our attention on the Madlanga Commission. Later in the show, by the way, you might have heard me say we'd be chatting to Julian Rademeyer, who's with the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime. He's got a perspective on the role of the Durban harbour in the drug syndicates that appear to be moving with considerable impunity in and out of South Africa. But under the spotlight at the Madlanga Commission, a 200 million rand KZN cocaine theft. This has been discussed over the last couple of days. Alpha, a very good afternoon to you. My understanding of this session today was that the senior Hawks official giving evidence was to some degree taken to task as to why no action was taken against the people who were actually responsible for safeguarding this 200 million rand cocaine stash. If I've got that right, what exactly did they say?
Good afternoon, John. Well, not entirely. You would understand that Major General Hendrik Flynn, who's the head of serious organized crime investigations at the Hawks, has been in that position for just almost 2 years now, and the theft of 541 kilograms of cocaine at the Hawks' facility happened in 2021, so it was way before he was in that position. But he's been leading the investigations into the theft of the substantial amount of cocaine ever since he assumed the position almost 2 years ago. And really what the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and the commissioners were asking today, like you said, is why exactly seemingly no one has been taken to task and why the investigation has been dragging for so long. In fact, the commission's chairperson, Buyiseli Madlanga, asking him towards the conclusion of his testimony why Major General Lisecha Sinona, who's the head of the Hawks in KZN, was not subjected to a lie detector test. Now, John, this is because Sinona, according to Flynn's testimony, flouted several procedures from the moment the drugs were discovered at the Durban harbour in June 2021 to the moment they were stolen from the Hawks' offices in November of that same year. Sinona is accused of mishandling the keys to the storage facility where the drugs was kept at the Hawks' offices in Port Shepstone, at times handing them over to his subordinates without following due process. He's also accused, Dr. John, of playing a central role in allowing the drugs to be kept at the Hawks' facility. Now, according to Major General Flynn, who testified today, typically such drugs are not meant to be kept at the Hawks' offices for long periods. In exceptional circumstances, they need to be transferred to the Forensic Sciences Laboratory within 7 days for testing. And so they were there for nearly 5 months before they were stolen. And that is yet another process that Sinona allegedly flouted or disregarded, which is eventually saw the drugs being stolen by thieves at the Hawks' facility.
So, just speaking of Major General Lisecha Sinona, he was supposed to appear before the commission, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, they're wanting to pull this thread through, and he asked for postponement on his attendance. What's the latest on that? What did the commission rule?
Well, Major General Lisecha Sinona was meant to appear at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry on Friday to continue testifying. However, he has written to the commission saying, can he return on the 1st of June because it clashes with some commitments that he has within the South African Police Service, some disciplinary proceedings that he has to undergo. And so the commission has granted that application and he'll be back on the 1st of June to testify. And now, of course, he has to answer to the new allegations that were made today and yesterday, which allege that he flouted several processes, which eventually allowed for the drugs to be stolen from the Hawks' offices in Port Shepstone.
Thanks so much, Alpha Ramushwana. So that June 1st appearance of Major General Lisecha Sinona will, I think, be absolutely critical now that we have the comments made, the answers given by Major General Flynn about the way in which the storing of confiscated drugs ought to take place. That's going to have a much sharper focus. Of course, many people will pass through the Madlanga Commission between now and 1 June, I would imagine, and probably hundreds of questions will be asked, if not thousands, before we get to that date. 29 minutes to 4. Okay, this Eyewitness News is brought to you by ShopRite. Lower prices you can trust always. Let's hear from Maki Molapo. Good afternoon again.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. Leader of the National Coloured Congress and Member of Parliament Fadil Adams, who has been arrested in connection to alleged interference in the murder case of slain ANC politician Cindy Somagaqa, is in transit to KwaZulu-Natal. However, police say due to safety reasons, the details of his trip will be kept a secret. Adams was arrested in Cape Town yesterday by members of the Political Killings Task Team. He's expected to be processed in Durban ahead of his court appearance. Ntlantla Mabaso has more.
KwaZulu-Natal police say the leader of the National Coloured Congress, Fadil Adams, is indeed being transported to the province, but say the trip has to be kept a secret for security reasons, given the nature of the case. Police spokesperson Robert Nechiwunda.
The suspect is in transit to the province, where he will be processed and make his first court appearance. For safety and security reasons, we cannot divulge the movements, where the team is, how far they are from the province, and all those things, because
he adds the suspect's safety is also a priority.
Anybody who is in police custody becomes the responsibility of the police, and for their safety, we are withholding certain details which could pose a risk to the operation itself.
Adams is due to appear in court soon. Ntlantla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Durban.
Social Development Minister Sisisi Tolashe says she has deposited an affidavit with Parliament's Ethics Committee to explain the donation of Chinese vehicles to the ANC Women's League that ended up with her children. This follows complaints from two political parties, with the minister insisting she did not mislead Parliament over the donation. Tolashe appeared before the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee today, largely to explain questionable appointments in her department. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
Minister Sisisi Tolashe says when she responded to a written parliamentary question on the donation of Chinese vehicles, she was not being untruthful about their purpose.
The cars were meant for the ANC Women's League, not me. And this is why I did not declare them.
But Tolashe has not elaborated on reports that she diverted the donation and registered the cars in the names of her children.
I guess there's a perception that I misled Parliament. However, I want to reinstate that I did not mislead Parliament.
Tolashe says in the main, the matter is a political one to be handled by the ANC Women's League. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Former Health Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma says the legal challenge against the National Health Insurance Act in the Constitutional Court is aimed at preserving inequality in access to health care. Dlamini-Zuma says those opposing the NHI are benefiting from the current system. Her comments come as the Board of Healthcare Funders, which represents medical aids and the Western Cape government, challenged the act, seeking to have it set aside. The applicants argue there was no meaningful public participation in the process, leading to the passing of the bill. Meanwhile, at least 15 other legal challenges opposing the act are on hold, pending the outcome of the Constitutional Court case.
What's happening here, unfortunately, is people who want to stop that, who want to keep the inequalities that exist. This act is about doing away with those inequalities. So those who are opposing it, in my view, want to keep the inequalities because they benefit from it.
In the UK, police say 100 extra officers have been deployed to tackle anti-Semitism in London. This comes after a number of arrests were made at the weekend in connection with racially and religiously aggravated offences. Sky News reports that the team aims to provide a more visible, intelligence-led and coordinated presence and provide a blueprint for how policing responds when tensions rise. Government is reportedly planning to introduce new legislation which would see people convicted of anti-Semitic attacks facing up to 14 years in prison. A look at your weather. It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng with showers and thunder showers expected today. Temperatures are peaking at highs between 14 and 16 degrees.
Well, at this stage in Bedfordview, heading towards Germiston, slow-moving traffic. The N3 South between Linksfield Road and Van Buren in Leondale. Protests approaching Berry Marais. Expect some delays. And in Houghton, travelling towards the Joburg CBD. Traffic is a bit sluggish. M1 South from Ethel Oaklands to Jan Smuts Avenue.
The top story in Eyewitness News. Leader of the National Coloured Congress and Member of Parliament Fadil Adams, who has been arrested in connection to alleged interference in the murder case of slain ANC politician Sindiso Magaqa, is in transit to KwaZulu-Natal.
In the news this week, fuel prices are rising yet again, but there is some relief for ShopRite shoppers. With ShopRite's bulk buying power, they're able to secure stock long before price increases, which means that they can keep their prices lower for much longer. So you can save on deals like Weet-Bix 900 grams for a low R52.99 and Ricoffee 750 grams or 800 gram refill for only R129.99 each. Valid until Sunday 10 May. Lower prices you can trust always.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
Clement asked the gentleman in the studio, what is his government's take on reparations, especially to South Africa?
High Commissioner, we are very conscious of what has happened between our countries in the past. The conversations that we have with the South African government at the minute are focused on our modern-day partnerships, focused on how we can continue to invest in South Africa's ambitions across a whole host of areas here in South Africa. And I think we are always conscious, as I say, of how we got to where we are, but we are now focused on looking forward. And that is the conversation we are having with our South African partners now.
So there's never been a conversation, even with your South African counterparts, about the issue of reparations? They've never put it on the table?
No. Not in my time here.
Anthony Phillipson is the British High Commissioner to the Republic of South Africa.
Clement Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
Fly Safai's 12th birthday sale might be over, but the dash for cheap flights lives on. That's right, Fly Safai is now making all domestic flights 30% off until midnight for travel until 27 March 2027. Where will you dash to first? The mountains, the coast, the people you love most? Maybe somewhere new with an amazing view, or to whatever inspires you. Wherever it is, make a dash to flysafai.co.za now and snatch up 30% off flights. T's and C's apply.
Each year, between 800 and 1,000 children in South Africa are diagnosed with cancer, leukemia being one of the most common. And for many, a stem cell donor is a possible cure. At DKMS Africa, we help finding matching stem cell donors for patients with blood disorders and cancers. So, this World Blood Cancer Month, register at dkmsafrica.org and help a patient find their match.
It's another girl!
Families multiply, fees shouldn't. With Ultimate Banking, you get support for every chapter. Get discounted banking for your spouse and give each of your children a head start with a Mega U account. Because as your family grows, your banking should keep up. Apply online. Your story matters. ABSA. Terms and conditions apply. ABSA is an authorized financial services provider.
Joburg is more than just a city. It's an energy, a pulse, and a feeling connecting everybody. The heart of Mzansi.
It's Joburg, you know?
In celebration of this, 702 has partnered with Jozi My Jozi, and we're calling on you to walk through the city center with us.
Walk the talk.
In the 702 Jozi My Jozi Walk the Talk. Babise bonke. On Sunday, 26 July, we're going to the iconic Joburg CBD, the home of dream creators and operators, where we dominate and history make. So join us and be a part of something special.
I'm ready to rock this book.
Because when Joburg walks together, extraordinary things happen. Enter now on primemediaplus.com and get ready for 702 Jozi My Jozi Walk the Talk this July, hosted by the City of Johannesburg. Walk with the people, for the people, for our Jozi. Babise bonke. Enter Walk the Talk now on primemediaplus.com.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hello, John. Mine was my first time in Cape Town. I went out to, I think it was Spur that night. And I was there for a job interview. So I sat down to have dinner in the evening. And after my dinner, I discovered that this couple that was sitting across from me paid my bill. and I couldn't believe it. We never spoke, we didn't have any interaction, and they just paid my bill.
Hi, Ndate John Mpoya. Ndate John, I drive around Joburg every day as an Uber driver, and I try to spread joy and happiness as much as I can with everybody that gets in the car. I don't get it right all the time, but I try to make the difference. And, I try to be the difference that I want to see, or be the change that I want to see. So I try to spread as much joy and encourage people as much as I can with every ride. So yeah, that's my story.
Good afternoon, Tate John. Thank you very much for the wonderful show. There's a person that once warmed my heart, a gentleman called Agustin in the area of Leboa Khomo, in Zone B, Leboa Khomo, in Limpopo. I was a student at Tabamopo. I was stuck. I didn't have money. He gave me a lift to town. I was going home. And then he also gave me money to take a taxi to home because I was reconnecting the transport. Otherwise, I also love the people of Guatemala and the people of Orange Farm. The people of Guatemala, Orange Farm. Augustine, I'm looking for you, my brother, to thank you for the difference you made in my life. Milton from Kempton Park.
Yeah, Augustine, if you're listening, Milton is looking for you, trying to get in touch. Great stories there. The question we asked, by the way, I read something that I picked up on X, didn't happen in South Africa, but the point obviously has got through to everyone. I asked the simple question: have you had an interaction with complete strangers that has filled your heart in some way? Coach Lorraine says yes, ! And Buntu says almost every day lately. I wonder about the lately. Are we being kinder to each other? Given the kind of circumstances that we are facing at the moment. Perry says, I recently met an individual while waiting in the iStore customer service queue. A conversation arose between us after my 3-year-old child became restless. Turned out one of his children shares the same name as my child. We exchanged contact numbers and have since maintained communication. A little goes an incredibly long way, it would seem, in this space. 16 minutes now to 4.
EWN Sport.
Tolakele Mganga, very good afternoon to you. What's been happening on the sports fields?
Well, John, the Bedway Premiership title race remains alive after Orlando Pirates claimed a 2-0 win over Stellenbosch. That was courtesy of goals from Evidence Mahopa and Patrick Masangwanyi. The Buccaneers have now won 62 points this season, their highest ever total in PSL history, and have moved within 2 points of leaders Mamelodi Sundowns. Sipho Chain has also reached a personal milestone, having recorded an 18th clean sheet of the season to surpass Monique Joseph's record of 17 that was set during the 2008-09 season. Abdeslam Madu has hailed the entire defence for the solidity they've shown this campaign.
I tried to analyze what we can improve in that team. And if you see last season, they conceded a lot of goals into transitions. They conceded a lot of goals because the philosophy was more attacking and sometimes they forget to defend well. And it's what we rectified this season with the players. Shane is an important player for us. I'm happy for him that he broke the record. We still have some games. I hope definitely that Hugo Bros will see his performance. Really, I hope that he will be part of the national team in US. He deserves it.
Arsenal have reached the UEFA Champions League final for the first time in 20 years after a Bukayo Saka goal sealed a 1-0 win over Atletico Madrid. That's in the second leg of their semi-final. The Gunners' 2-1 aggregate win sets up a meeting with either defending champions PSG or Bayern Munich in the final on May 30th. Mikel Arteta's side are now pushing to complete a historic double, with the team 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League standings.
The high is not too high, the low is not too low. Yeah, my job is to be quite stable. I really want to enjoy. Everybody's enjoying this moment now. Tomorrow we have to start to prepare for Sunday. We have an incredible game now to play against West Ham, a really tough one, and we're going to have 4 days to do that. So it's great. Let's enjoy the moment, but tomorrow let's start to live the present again.
John Rahm will be eligible for Europe at next year's Ryder Cup, having reached an agreement to pay fines and play events on the DP World Tour this season. The move comes after his comments in March where he accused the tour of extorting players, having refused to agree a deal that allowed live golfers to compete in tournaments on both tours. Additionally, Rahm insists he remains committed to live golf, despite Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund announcing they'll stop funding the series after the 2026 season.
Surprised, obviously unexpected. We did hear the news that they would be funding through for many years, so unexpected. But then as the future of the league goes, I think that's obviously a question for the business people. We want to be here. It's been a lot of fun. I want to keep competing. I want to keep sharing some time with them. But time will tell.
And this year's IPL final on May 31st has been shifted to Ahmedabad, with the BCCI citing operational and logistic issues at the original venue in Bengaluru. Last year, 11 people were killed in the city while celebrating the Royal Challengers' maiden IPL success. Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
So we're coming up now to 13 minutes to 4, so it is getting busier. This EWN Traffic is brought to you by GWM, class-leading vehicles that help you navigate your journey. Irene is very, very busy. Any idea why? Here's Karabo.
Well, maybe the motorists or commuters in that area could let us know. Delays in the Irene area. This is approaching the intersection of Nelmapius Drive and Main Road. So you can WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic. Your input will be gladly appreciated. In Bedfordview, also slow-moving traffic on the N3 southbound from Linksfield Road all the way to Van Buren. Leondale, we have protests approaching Berry Marais, so motorists have been advised to avoid that route or expect delays at this hour. In Houghton, traffic sluggish heading into the Joburg CBD. M1 South from Ethel Oakland all the way to Jan Smuts Avenue. Like I said, if you come across any other traffic issues, you can also SMS us on 31702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Ever since fuel went up, you've had to endure a lot. Like helping your mom run errands while she tries to help you with your love life.
Hi, Bo. Kanti, when are you and Sfiso getting married? Pella, I want grandchildren.
Don't let the fuel hike put you under pressure. Get 5,000 Rand towards your fuel when you buy a Haval or P-Series this month. Visit gwm.co.za or your nearest dealer to book a test drive. GWM. Go with more.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it is 11 minutes to 4. Tola Keller, we asked the question, interactions with strangers, it may well be instances where they helped you out, but it doesn't have to meet that threshold for your story to be of interest, but just interactions with strangers in South Africa, either recently or further back in the past, that make you feel just good about people, good about the place where you live.
When Pirates were playing the Carling knockout final in Nelspruit, me and my friend were driving down to watch the game.
Okay.
And then as we were driving, my tire burst. And then I told her, I don't know anything about cars. And then she was like, no, don't worry. I know how to change tires. So we parked on the side of the road. There she was telling me, do you have ABC? I was like, I have everything you need. Mind you, she's wearing this cute white dress and I'm wearing like a cute black and white dress.
Right.
Short dresses. And then my girl starts putting up like the jackhammer and all of that. John, while we were having the argument of, are you sure you want to do this? There was a car that pulled up behind us. There was another car that pulled up behind me. And then across the road, there were 3 more cars.
Okay.
That went, there's no way that you 2 girls on the side of the road are going to fix this tire. Within 5 minutes, all of these people just gathered together, fixed the tire for us and said, have a great game. And I was just like, okay, people in the midst of whatever they're doing, they really will take time to help you and say, you don't have to struggle with this one thing. And once again, it reaffirmed my thoughts that I will never learn to change a tire as long as there are men in the world.
Yeah, but I mean, it sounded like you had a bigger tire changing crew than Kimi Antonelli. I mean, they weren't as quick. And you know, I won't fault them for that, but that's a lot of people for one time. Were they like elbowing each other to get to the tools and the car?
The ones that were across the road were yelling at the ones that were standing like front and back.
Yes.
To say, are you guys okay? Because I said to her,
are you guys okay? Yeah.
I said to her, oh, there's 3 guys coming from this car to fix us, to help with the tire. Then she was like, oh no, there's 4 people behind you. And I was like, okay. It's a lot happening, but we really did appreciate it because it probably would have taken us 30 minutes to fix that whole thing. Took 5.
And the little white dress would have been at risk
she looked so
substantially.
cute that day.
What a story. Okay, I have never I've had people help me on the side of the road, but certainly not forming a minor traffic jam in their bid to render assistance. Stories, please, of when South Africans have been incredibly kind to you. Strangers. Karen has this one. I once ran late for a flight to Cape Town. All I had to do before booking in was to pay for my cat's ticket. The ticket officer's card machine was out of order and they requested me to pay cash, which I didn't have. The ATMs are so far from the boarding area, I would have missed my flight if I'd run back to the ATM. Two men in traditional Muslim attire observed my distress. They paid for my cat's airfare without accepting my offer to refund them. I will never forget that. 702 Drive, it's 8 minutes to 4.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Now, over the course of today, on different shows, particularly at on Midday, the Midday Report, but also regularly on the news bulletins, you may have been hearing some of the contributions from our EWN colleague Nkosi Corner, Malinga Mnisi. He spent time in the Mfuleni Municipality looking at various issues. A couple of bulletins back, we heard about houses built on a wetland and the consequences of that and other issues besides. But one of the strongest stories that has come out is the time that he spent with the family of an Mfuleni Municipality accountant who was actually murdered, and their feelings about what happened to Martha Rantsofu. There's an investigation that should be underway. This investigation has been going on for a while, in some ways, raising as many questions as have been answered. But let's bring in Nkosi Corner into the conversation. Nkosi Corner, great reporting from the southern part of Gauteng. Thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit about Martha Rantsofu. Background. What are her family saying she was working on in her role as an accountant, and do they believe that this is the reason she was murdered?
Yeah. Good afternoon to you, John, as well as to our listeners. Let me perhaps jog the memory of our listeners as to what we know about the story and how we've gotten to this point. Of course, horrific CCTV footage surfacing online some time ago, Martha having been murdered at the end of March.
Yes.
And that's really what drew all of our attention to this particular story, in which you see this gunman pumping bullets into her as she was waiting for her car to get fixed at a tire shop in Vandal Bay Park. We then, of course, over the last couple of weeks uncovered that she was a senior accountant with Mfuleni Municipality, albeit her primary role really was that of a senior clerk. And what we've been able to uncover by speaking to organizations like the Val Business Corporation, whose CEO, Clippy Skritzing, is also one individual we had the opportunity to sit down with during our time in Mfuleni, is that Martha uncovered this alleged scheme, John, allegedly involving municipal employees who were essentially dealing with debt account, particularly that of businesses. And the claims are that they were reducing debt or writing it off in its entirety in exchange for bribes. But what we've then also been able to now uncover is, after speaking to the family, we spoke to her brother. We sat down with them alongside his mom as well, who is absolutely devastated, as you can imagine, John.
Yes.
Is that they've also been made aware of reports that the investigation, because Martha was essentially now investigating this alleged scheme, was multi-layered, really, if I could put it in that sense. So you have the alleged involvement of municipal employees, but from the next clip, which we're going to listen to, John, you hear the brother relaying how there could have been a third party also involved in the form of playing the role of negotiating on behalf of businesses where their debt is then concerned with the municipality. Difo Rantsofu is Martha's elder brother, and let's just perhaps take a listen into some of his sentiments.
And then apparently when she take this to the higher offices of her supervisors, then that's where there was this thing of, because she was working on those accounts, she's supposed to go and open a case. Because apparently, when there are things like that, she's supposed to go and open a case. But before she can do that, that was the mandate from the higher office, not even from her immediate supervisor, because there are levels. But those ones, whenever they're being asked, they've said, no, the lawyer said, because apparently there's a lawyer involved who advised them. also so that they can make things correctly. Advise them that my sister's supposed to be the one, because she's the one who has done the findings. She's supposed to go and open the case against the client that were represented by this consultant. So these are the things that we've heard, that we think it's one of the things that led to her death.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking stuff there in Nkosi Corner. And I think, if my memory serves me well, sometime last year, there was a similar scam going on in Ekurhuleni, and Alpha Ramoshwana did some digging into that and came out with some really important reports. I want to ask you this. A police investigation, what do we know? Is it making any headway? Are they joining any dots? What would be your assessment of how well the cops have dealt with this so far?
Yeah, John, if I may also, just at the back of that audio, just give a bit more context as well. You hear the brother speaking about this consultant who, as I said, was playing this intermediary role between the municipality and these businesses. And what he also then revealed, which you didn't hear in the audio, is that apparently this consultant was, putting through sort of fraudulent checks that kept bouncing, in essence. So that's how we then get to this part. And the lawyer is the latter part. Apparently the lawyer was the one trying to assist in essentially correcting this thing. And one of the accounts that was affected is that of Clippy Skritzinger, the CEO of the Val Business Corporation, who then subsequently submitted an affidavit for Martha to then take to the Hawks in this particular case. But where we speak of the police investigation, John, what we know so far is that the political killings task team has taken over that investigation.
Okay.
And they're looking into a number of possibilities, a number of motives. This is a potential motive. So they are looking into whether, and I think that's one of the biggest focuses, into whether this is linked to her work, because as you might well know, John, the municipality is not of the view that her killing was linked to her work. And in fact, the brother also, during this lengthy interview, telling me that, in fact, where Martha is then concerned, he heard from the investigating officer that they are trying to investigate any potential link between what she was able to uncover and her passing. But very heartbreaking. And a brother, in fact, in this last clip, John, just telling us about the devastation, or perhaps not on that clip, but he just really spoke to great extents around the devastation that they as a family are having to contend with.
Yeah, I can imagine, and we'll, I'm sure, in upcoming bulletins hear from the family again. Thank you, Nkosi Corner Malinga Mnisi, doing some very important digging into the killing of Martha Rantsofu and the personal and political consequences of that. 702 Drive.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener.
The Midday Report at its heart is a current affairs show, but it really is a show about everything you need to know about and everything you didn't know you needed to know about. Our listener is sharp, plugged in, curious, has developed opinions, but is still open to learning new things. My favorite part is how witty, sharp, and funny our listener is. What we cover every day is breaking news, current affairs, politics, the courts, global developments, science, education, popular culture, sports, books, and of course, good things too. I like to think of it as a lunchbox with a little bit of everything. What I love about 702 Land is that it is full of energy. There's always something happening, a developing story to follow. But it's not parochial. The 702 family cares about what is happening in the world around them and how we plug into that.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener. Weekdays from 12 to 1 p.m.
If your medical aid was becoming too expensive, you'd switch, right? So why pay more for car insurance? Switching to Outsurance saved 27-year-old Liam an awesome 640 Rand on his 2020 Ford Ranger. Get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Do it now. SMS OUT to 45142. That's OUT to 45142. Licensed insurance FSP, TCs and information online.
In business, missed deliveries cost more than money. Gold Girl Logistics is South Africa's 100% black female-owned Level 1 Triple BEE powerhouse, delivering secure, time-sensitive transport for parcels, cold chain cargo, and compliance waste. With DG trained drivers, cold chain certification, national reach, and real-time tracking, every load is handled professionally, safely, and on time. Go Girl Logistics, power beyond cargo. Visit gogirl-logistics.com.
Oh, Shane, do you have a sore throat? The Andalex range of lozenges offers two options. At the first signs of an irritated, scratchy throat, use Andalex lozenges for dual-action, soothing relief. But for a painful, inflamed throat, use Andalex C lozenges for triple-action, pain relief. Andalex, SA's #1 choice for a sore mouth and throat. Andalex lozenges are available at all leading pharmacies and supermarkets.
Just Andalex it.
This is EWN.
South African and Mozambican presidents call for efforts in addressing mass migration on the continent, and NPA considers evidence in George building collapse. Good afternoon, I'm Maki Molapo. The presidency says President Cyril Ramaphosa and Mozambican President Daniel Chapo want a more coordinated effort to address the issue of mass migration in Africa, both agreeing that South Africa is not xenophobic. Presidency spokesperson Vincent Magwenya briefed the media in Parliament today about the president's diary and travels. He says the two leaders discussed the ongoing protests targeting undocumented foreigners and businesses during their meeting this week. Babalandenza has more.
Presidency spokesperson Vincent Magwenya says while there are pockets of protests, which is permissible within the Constitution, the issue of immigration is a pressure point, not only in South Africa. He says such protests are held throughout the world on issues around migration. Magwenya says President Ramaphosa and President Daniel Chapo both understand this.
The matter was discussed yesterday between President Chapo and President Ramaphosa, and they both agreed that, number one, South Africa is not xenophobic. South Africans are not xenophobic.
But Magwenya says protests have to be conducted peacefully without targeting anyone.
And in this regard, the President expects law enforcement to also play its role to prevent any acts of violence against any individual.
Magwenya said Chapo and Ramaphosa also agreed that the continent needs to work together to address the issues that are behind the high levels of migration, like conflicts and poor governance. Babalo Ndenza, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Tshwane's Deputy Mayor Eugene Modise has been docked 2 months' wages for failing to declare his interest in a company doing business with the municipality. The fine was recently voted on by council during a closed-door meeting. Opposition parties have called it a slap on the wrist for the ANC councillor. Last year, a forensic report commissioned by the municipality found Modise violated the Code of Conduct for councillors by not declaring his interest in Triotic Protection Services, which currently has a multi-million rand security tender with the municipality. Tabiso Goba has more.
Prior to becoming a councillor for the ANC in Tshwane, Eugene Modise had a security company called Triotic Protection Services. Modise claims he sold the company before taking on his councillor role. However, the forensic report notes that he failed to produce a sale of agreement to prove his claim. The forensic report also found the company is located in a property owned by Modise and he derives a monthly income from it, something he also failed to disclose. Following the release of the report in September last year, Council voted to form a multi-party ad hoc committee which was tasked with deliberating the appropriate sanction for Modise. However, at a council meeting held behind closed doors, a report was tabled to disband the committee and issue a monetary fine to Modise. EWN understands the ANC, Action SA and EFF coalition used its majority in council to vote in favour of the report and recommended that Modise is fined 2 months' worth of wages. Tabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
The Western Cape Social Development Department says a woman who died as a result of severe weather in Knysna was a social worker deployed to assess storm damage. Lauren Fredericks was based at the department's Knysna office and was on her way to a residence who had been evacuated due to the adverse weather. She was killed when an uprooted tree fell on her parked vehicle earlier today. Social Development MEC Yakulant says has rather expressed his condolences to her family, friends and colleagues.
I'm deeply saddened by this loss. Ms. Fredericks had
her love for community work and was part of the office's disaster management response team. Our thoughts are with her family, particularly her young son, friends and colleagues during this difficult time.
Staying in the Western Cape, the National Prosecuting Authority says it's considering evidence received from police in connection with the George Building collapse investigation. Today marks the second anniversary of the tragedy where 34 construction workers died when a multi-story building collapsed at 75 Victoria Street in George's CBD. Another 28 workers were seriously injured, some permanently, after being buried under thousands of tons of rubble. Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Dean McPherson is calling for the NPA to prosecute those responsible. Ntutuzelo Nene has more.
Investigations by government departments, police, independent engineers and built environment bodies into the cause of the collapse have now been completed. Most findings point to possible criminal liability on the part of employers. Minister Dean McPherson says his department will continue to cooperate with law enforcement to ensure justice for the victims and their families.
With the South African Police Service having completed its investigation, the ball is now in the court of the National Prosecuting Authority to take the necessary prosecutorial decisions.
Ntutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News.
And Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says 42 of the 62 contacts linked to hantavirus cases have been traced. Motsoaledi told Parliament's Health Committee today that those identified are being monitored until the incubation period is over. Investigations show the 62 people may have come into contact with 2 confirmed infections in South Africa, including a British tourist currently being treated at a medical facility.
The British tourist being treated in South Africa was evacuated from a cruise ship on which a hantavirus outbreak has led to at least 3 deaths. The 69-year-old was transferred from Ascension Island to South Africa on the 27th of April, and on the 2nd of May, lab tests confirmed the infection. One of the deceased was a 69-year-old woman from the Netherlands who collapsed at OR Tambo International Airport and later died at a hospital in Kempton Park on the 24th of April. It's emerged she was the wife of patient 0, a 70-year-old Dutch man who died on board the MV Hondius that was travelling from Argentina to Cape Verde. His body was removed from the vessel at St. Helena Island. According to reports this week, the body of the third deceased is still on board the cruise liner. Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says although this particular strain can spread from person to person, it's rare and requires close contact. The illness is usually transmitted to humans from rodents. Camray Clark, Eyewitness News.
Gold's trading at $4,706.24 an ounce. The rand's at 16.40 to the dollar, at 22.32 to the pound, at 19.27 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $102.78 a barrel.
Bedford View heading towards Germiston. Slow-moving traffic on the N3 southbound from Linksfield Road to Van Buren. In Leondale, protests approaching Berry Murray. That's on the N3, causing heavy delays all the way from Heidelberg Road. And in the Joburg CBD, traffic sluggish. M1 south from Killarney Bend to the Crown Interchange.
In your sport, Sipho Chain records his 18th clean sheet as Orlando Pirates beat Stellenbosch in the Bedway Premiership. Arsenal pushing to complete a historic double, having booked their spot in the UEFA Champions League final. And the IPL final moved from Bengaluru to Ahmedabad due to logistical issues.
And look at your weather. A partly cloudy Thursday in store for Gauteng with isolated showers and rain expected tomorrow. Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 7 degrees and peak at highs of 14. Pretoria is at 8 and 17 degrees. Vereeniging is also at a low of 8, reaching highs of 14 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. The presidency says President Cyril Ramaphosa and Mozambican President Daniel Chapo want a more coordinated effort to address the issue of mass migration in Africa, both agreeing that South Africa is not xenophobic.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Visit primemediaplus.com to enter 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk. Hosted by the City of Johannesburg. Walk with the people, for the people, for our Josie.
For Joburg, by Joburg, in Joburg.
702.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 11 minutes past 4. We still have 2 hours, a little bit less, in which we can bring you news, breaking news, details and insights into some of the big stories of the day. We've got the EWN News team. We've got some great guests lined up for you. I'll tell you more about them in a moment. But just to remind you, please, of our regular appeal to you. There are stories that either we don't know enough about or stories we don't know about at all. So if there's something you've seen, something you've heard, something that is on your mind that you think will add value to what we're trying to understand better today on 702 Drive, please do give us a call. 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. Many of you will have made it to the pumps before midnight last night, and many of you may not have, and you are either in a queue or in a quiet place contemplating just what you've had to pay to stay on the road. Now, there has been some mitigation of the incredible burden imposed on South Africans by rising oil prices and the way that works through into the price of petrol and diesel. But one of my guests coming up in just a moment believes that, in fact, these temporary reprieves offered by government are simply not a way forward, that what we have to do is take a very, very tough decision in regard to the way our fuel price is calculated. We'll hear from Dr. Dumisani Jantjies joining us from the University of Johannesburg in a short moment. Coming up a little bit later in the show, more cocaine confiscated at Durban Airport, Durban Harbour, I beg your pardon. This all very much in focus at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. This whole 13 million rand worth of cocaine. The Madlanga Commission is asking what happened to 200 million rands worth of cocaine. That's a lot of drugs that disappeared from a poorly guarded facility in Port Shepstone. We'll chat to Julian Rademeyer, who's with the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime. He's got some important insights into that. He'll call us a little bit later, or we'll call him a little bit later. That's coming up at 10 to 5. I asked what I think was a deceptively simple question, but boy, are we getting some fabulous answers from you. We asked you, can you think of an instance where an interaction with complete strangers in South Africa just left your heart filled and you feeling a lot more positive about the place where we live? Let's hear some of your answers. They come in on 072 702 1702.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
Dumela Ntate John. Tolagele's car tire change story is a classic example of what we call pretty privilege. You know, two pretty ladies are changing tires, and then the gents are just running over to help. Pretty privilege is a thing, Ntate John. Thank you.
Hi, Ntate John. Mine would be yesterday. I was at gym yesterday, and I decided to do like an hour treadmill run. And I'm one of those people whom look down while they're running on the treadmill. But no less, once I was done with my workout, I'm busy with the cool down, and the lady next to me was also taking a run on the treadmill, and she turns around to me and she says, "Thank you so much for pushing me." And she caught me like off guard, right? I'm like, oh, I was just like, oh, I did my first 5K run, and we just had like a light chat about, oh, how was it? But yeah, it left me, I think I was left smiling for a couple of seconds, if not minute. And yeah, it's those small interactions that can sometimes just brighten up your day. Thank you, and great show.
One time I was driving when my son was 2 years old. We were driving and it was like a storm, and then the car just stopped working and we had to pull over to the side of the road. At least my dad and my husband wasn't far away, but you know, my immediate thought was, oh my goodness, I'm alone next to the side of the road with my 2-year-old son. Like, you know, you're scared. On the way, a couple actually just stopped and waited until my dad and my husband arrived, and then some other person stopped and gave me the snacks in his car, because he was like, you know, you don't know how long you're going to be here, but here's a bottle of water, some Skittles and chips. So I was actually quite pleasantly surprised with how people responded.
Yeah, I mean, these stories are wonderful, and some of them are big gestures, some of them are smaller. Maxine says, I lost my car in Melrose Arch. Complete stranger walked with me looking for it for over 30 minutes. Wow. I must say, I've mentioned this before, but I'll repeat it. When I park in large parking garages, I always take a picture of the bay. And if the bays are not numbered, I take a picture of something that'll, at the very least, I can show to a security guard and just ask them, hey, listen, any idea where this is in your massive parking lot that appears designed to confuse us? Keep those coming, please. Strangers, chance interactions with people you don't know that have just left you feeling absolutely wonderful and warm-hearted about yourself, about other people, about the place where we all live. 072-702-1702. That's where you send them to us. It's 16 minutes past 4.
EWN Traffic.
Right, let's get caught up on what's happening with the traffic with Karabo Charlie. Irene was bad. Irene now?
Yeah, Irene, still, you can still expect some delays. This is approaching the intersection of Nomapiers Drive and Main Road, leaving the Pretoria CBD. Also some delays in Hermanstad. This is on Eskia Mphahlele between Vomhagen and the R80 Bedford View, traveling into Durban. Slow-moving traffic on the N3 southbound from Linksfield Road to Van Buren. We still have protests in the Leondale area, N3 south, approaching Berry Marais. Expect some delays. This is all the way from Heidelberg Road in the Joburg CBD, heading into Boysens. Traffic sluggish. M1 southbound from Killarney Bend to the Crown Interchange. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Right, let's focus our attention now on the fuel price. Obviously, very much front and center, top of mind, and probably giving you various kinds of palpitations, given just how unbelievably expensive it is now to keep a vehicle on the road. Does it have to be this way? Well, there are certain things out of our control. The conflict in the Gulf, the implications of that for the world. First of all, the availability of oil and consequently for the price of crude oil. But there are things we can do. That is certainly the view of my next guest. Professor Dumisani Jantjies is a professor at the University of Johannesburg, but he is also a leading macroeconomist. Prof, we're very pleased and grateful to you for giving us your time today. You have written a piece that's on the Business Day site, and I'm going to read for people 2 lines, and then I'm going to get you to explain it. Funding a bankrupt accident compensation model through a tax on energy is economically destructive in normal times. During a global oil shock, it amounts to national sabotage. When farmers buy diesel to harvest maize or a logistics company fuels a truck to deliver bread, they are forced to pay a dysfunction tax to bail out the RAF, the Road Accident Fund. We are using the lifeblood of our domestic economy to subsidize a broken institution. Powerful words, but set the scene for us, Prof, because you're saying the levy subsidies, the subsidies on the fuel levy that government is giving us at the moment, is not something that they can continue with, but you're saying this funding of the RAF is crazy. Tell us why you say that.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much for such a colorful introduction. Thank you so much, and good afternoon to your listeners as well. Thank you so much for the opportunity once more. I think what I'm trying to say in the piece, Sir John, is let's not let the crisis go to waste.
Yes.
So we've had over the years the issues with Road Accident Fund, and when you follow the discussion in Parliament's Committee on Scopa, clearly the RAF model doesn't work, and we've known that it's accumulated debt. We know so much crisis in terms of corruption, and also some of the issues that we've seen in court and so many things. But then we continue to use the fuel price or the most economic component to macroeconomic function of the economy to take away money from it and put in this pit hole. So I think what you're trying to emphasize is to say, is this not an opportunity where we can reform this? We know there's been promised over the 2022 that the fuel price has to be reformed. Particularly, my argument is decoupling or removing the levy that goes to RAF away from the price, fuel price, and in a case like this, that could come quite handy in reducing the cost of consumption or the cost of money that actually don't see where it goes. So I think that's the argument to say if we keep on funding this, there are different models that work out there, which are more privatizing the whole accident shenanigans and removing it from the price of the fuel in regard. And this is a time where, in my view, we shouldn't seize this. We shouldn't seize this opportunity.
Yeah, because no, absolutely, and this window is worryingly going to be quite a wide one because there's no sign of the root causes of this fuel price hike actually being addressed in any effective way. Just to be clear, that would knock R2 off every litre of petrol or diesel sold. Have I got the number right?
Just over R2, but it fluctuates depending on our factors. But just definitely over R2 will be knocked off. I mean, if you have times in normal times where you have petrol at 20 rand, 18 or 19 rand, R2 is a huge amount. Even now, I mean, I had to fuel diesel yesterday, and it was quite a high amount. So certainly that could make a huge difference, particularly when you understand the role of diesel in the economy and how can it be destructive without it being checked out, in my view.
So,
John.
So, Prof, you as part of your first answer said there are options. What are those options? I mean, we're not the only country in the world that is looking at third-party insurance for all the reasons that they have them. What could we do differently?
I think interesting. I had the opportunity to spend some time in Europe, and when I was buying a car, then there was a particular insurance that you had to buy. I was worried, why am I paying this amount of money? But what it does, it prioritizes the accident spending. I forgot what is it, OMUT, I forgot the name of it, whereby when you buy a vehicle, automatically that component of insurance, it's actually privatized with the value of the car. And I think that model for me seems to have worked quite a lot then. And I don't know why we haven't tried that. And I feel that could be a model that we could try where we privatize the road accident particularly out completely and we reduce corruption or governance failures that we're seeing currently in the model that we have, which is inherent to the model that we have. And obviously the model that I'm referring to might have weaknesses there and there, but significantly could be far different to what we have at the moment, where we don't see the value of what we're paying for the of course there is I'm oversimplifying this, but in a bigger scheme of conceptually, that could work quite better than what we have now. Yeah. But also in other jurisdictions in New Zealand, there's a flat structure where it's flat out and it's very less different from what we have in South African context. And I think the argument, which in my understanding, government has taken that into account. Remember when we had COVID-19 shock where we saw price fuel going up, there was some understanding that the current model of the pricing might have to be reviewed. And I think what frustrates the writing and all this, that we haven't seen much move from the hands and bringing the role of parliament, the role of government has to come into play. So look, we need to act and see if we can better things done in this regard.
So I want to ask you this, Prof. I mean, you said early on, we've known this for a long time. You point to now being a particular window, given the depth of the crisis that looms, given the extraordinarily high prices we're paying. Do you have any idea why we haven't done anything about this? I know there have been reviews spoken about and so on, but you refer to this as a stubborn adherence to this flawed model. What's the root of the stubbornness?
Well, that's a very good question. But I feel when I listened over the past weeks, months, I did hear that there's been quite an urgency from government. I know Minister of Minerals has said it, but I think we need to move, and I feel we should all have our hands on deck. And I'm arguing there in the paper that Parliament should probably have more involvement, particularly thinking about the Money Bills Act, which empower Parliament to actually participate quite more into the taxing of the economy. And in my view, and I heard even recently that there's been calls for the minister to provide an update from the Parliament how far the process is. And maybe there's opportunity time for us society to pressure more the policymakers, our representatives in Parliament, to seek more answers in terms of how far we are, and let's have a clear timeline when will they get affected, the reforms be affected in the price, fuel price over this coming crisis.
Thanks so much.
Remember that the thing is, post-August, we are even expected to have even more crisis. Hopefully by then would have resolved the Middle East crisis.
Yeah, that would be a welcome development, but thank you so much. Food for thought there. Professor Dumisani Yankees, who is joining us from the University of Johannesburg. He's a leading macroeconomist. 702 Drive. It's 26 minutes past 4.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
Okay, it's time, I think, to catch up. Okay, let's do this. An issue has arisen where President Cyril Ramaphosa recently paid a visit to Zimbabwe, and concerns were expressed that he was joined, this was evident from pictures and other reports, by a number of people, including a Zimbabwean businessman, Wicknell Chivayo, who has been accused of benefiting from state capture, is under investigation by the Hawks for money laundering, and whose assets in South Africa have been frozen. Now, after this was raised, presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya offered this in response.
Both presidents agreed to retreat to President Mnangagwa's farm, where they will engage in a relaxed environment and outside of the constraints of presidential formality protocol. Over and above the planned meeting, the president was interested in learning how President Mnangagwa is assisting local farmers in the area that neighbor his farm. As the presidency, we've noted with concern the reports that have since surfaced following this visit by the president to Zimbabwe, identifying an individual who is a person of interest to our law enforcement, who was also present during the visit. President Ramaphosa had no prior knowledge of who will be present during the visit, nor was he familiar with the said individual. The president flew to Zimbabwe for a meeting with his counterpart and nothing else. The president will further encourage our law enforcement agencies to continue with pursuing the matters that are under investigation involving these individuals or individual, and to do so with no fear or any form of hesitation.
Okay, so the sentence that just jumped out for me there, and I'd be really interested to know if anyone has worked in diplomatic affairs who could comment on this. President Ramaphosa had no prior knowledge of who would be present during the visit, nor is he familiar with the said individual. Should it not be, or is it not, standard procedure that when anyone from our government, but in particular our president, is going to a foreign country and is going to be attending a meeting, particularly what appears to be a small gathering? I get that there may be state banquets where there are possibly 150 people there, but even then, I mean, is it not part of the work of our diplomatic services and our presidency to ask who else is going to be in on the meeting, and if it's a larger function, to get a guest list and make sure that if there are going to be issues that could be awkward, that there's some kind of screening and, if necessary, some kind of action taken. So I'd be interested to know anyone who's been involved in arranging things where heads of state are involved. What kind of protocol have you been subjected to, or if you've worked in foreign affairs, what kind of things have you implemented? 29 minutes past 4.
EWN Business.
Stephen Critters, very good afternoon to you. Quite a nice day, it would seem.
Yeah, John, good afternoon. Not often I come with good news, but this is really because of what's happened in the Middle East. Sources telling Reuters and Axios that the US and Iran are coming close to an agreement on a one-page memo that would essentially end the war, being agreed to give what's been sort of agreed to in their negotiations. That's pushed oil prices down quite significantly to below $105, and that's had a big impact on, well, everything. The JSE All Share up 3.36%, 118,884 points. Financials are up 2.19%. Industrials up 2%, but its resources, John, 6.29% up. And that's because both gold and platinum are up by around 3%. And that's having a huge impact on the JSE. So Harmony's up 10%, Sibanye up 9%, Implats, Valterra up by around 8%, DRD Gold, Pan-African Resources, Goldfields, the whole bit, they're all up very, very strongly. It's really the miners that are driving things. Goes the other way too, though. Sasol down 8% because of lower oil prices. Exxaro down 4.35%, and Tungela down 3.78%, and Glencore down 0.81%. Those are the companies on our JSE, the sort of bigger ones that have really benefited from the movements that we've seen. The rand looking stronger as well, as you would expect. DRD Gold reporting today it was able to increase the amount of gold it produced by 6% in the quarter to the end of March, and Sibanye Stillwater's EBITDA rocketing by over 370% during the quarter. Their platinum operations here producing 2% more, but of course the main increase coming from higher platinum prices. And Quantum Foods saying that their headline earnings per share will be up by between 12 and 20% for the 6 months to the end of March. Strong demand for chicken, feed was cheaper, few electricity disruptions, and so that's really having a big impact. In the US, lots of buoyancy. There's a fun market word because of the hype around oil. Dow Jones is up 1.08, the Nasdaq is up 1.06, the S&P 500 is up 0.85 at the moment, and then the gold price stronger, $4,707.49, platinum $2,025.53, all because the Brent crude oil price has fallen to $103.09 a barrel. It's down 6% on the day, John. The rand to the dollar stronger, 16.40, to the euro 19.27, to the British pound 22.32. Long may it all continue. Stephen Crotus, EWN Business.
From your lips to, I wouldn't really know whose ears. There'd probably have to be quite a few of them. But a good day on the markets. Nothing wrong with that. Let's get the very latest eyewitness news then now with Maki Molapo. Good afternoon to you.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. The Madlanga Commission of Inquiry's chief evidence leader, Matthew Chaskelson, is strongly opposing an application for his recusal. Alleged political fixer Brown Mokhotsi has called for Chaskelson to step aside from the inquiry, claiming he was being treated unfairly. In his application, Mokhotsi alleges the evidence leader tried to present him as dishonest during his appearance before the commission. The commission spokesperson, Jeremy Michaels, says Chaskelson is expected to file his responding affidavit today.
Advocate Chaskelson has very firmly rejected the grounds on which Mr. Mokhotsi has brought that application, and that will be detailed this afternoon. So as far as Mr. Mokhotsi's appearance before the Commission is concerned, that will be decided on the 15th of May, that's next Friday.
Parliament has pushed back against claims that the National Council of Provinces failed to properly consider public input from Gauteng during the legislative process for the National Health Insurance. This comes as the Western Cape Government and the Board of Healthcare Funders challenged the validity of the NHI. The Western Cape Government has asked the court to send the Act back to Parliament to redo public hearings for the Western Cape and Gauteng only. While the BHF wants the Act declared unconstitutional and invalid, they argue that there was no meaningful public participation in the process, but Parliament's attorney, Advocate Nwako Maineje, maintains that public participations were facilitated through the provincial legislature. He adds there were no objections from a Democratic Alliance Gauteng representative to the NCOP about Gauteng's submission.
You can rest assured Mr. Baha was not going to speak in those meetings. You would have raised it and you would have seen it in the minute, in the report of the meetings on the 31st of October, the 7th of November, the 9th of November, and the 14th of November. We don't see any of that. He doesn't say that. People in Gauteng say 10 things no one is talking about. He doesn't say that.
And Social Development Minister Sisisi Talashe claims no knowledge of any arrangements between a food aide employed to work in her official Cape Town residence and her daughter. This follows allegations that Talashe's daughter demanded half the aide's state salary while living with her in the Eastern Cape. Talashe has been under fire before Parliament's Social Development Committee meeting today as MPs grilled her in connection with several scandals that have dogged her ministerial office. She told members that the aide was temporarily employed after the woman requested to move to the Eastern Cape when she became unwell due to the traditional healing process known as uktwasa.
When it comes to the payments to the daughter, Chair, I have no knowledge of that because Ms. Noma Tamsanga's salary came straight from department to her bank account.
Dolashe said she had no further information about the food aid's relationship with her daughter and was released from her employ at her own request over a year ago.
Between the two of them, they had their own arrangement, which I was not aware of. I am still not aware of.
Committee Chairperson Bridget Masango has suggested the Public Service Commission investigate the aide's appointment. A look at your weather. Partly cloudy Thursday in store for Gauteng with isolated showers and rain expected tomorrow. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows of 7 and 8 degrees and peak at highs between 14 and 17 degrees.
Leondale protests and the highway closed off to traffic. That's on the N3 South approaching Berry Marais. At this stage, you can expect more than an hour delay all the way from Heidelberg Road, so avoid that route at all costs. That's the N3 South through Germiston towards Leondale. In Edenville, expect some delays on the R24 westbound from Edenville Road to the Kilulis interchange. And finally, in four-ways traffic sluggish on Winnie Mandela Drive between Witban and Broadacres Drive.
The top story in Eyewitness News, the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry's chief evidence leader, Matthew Chaskalson, is strongly opposing an application for his recusal.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9. From one of Kabazela's videos, a man gropes some women inappropriately and the partner is forced to defend her honor. Now that situation works well if the intervening party prevails. But if they don't, what happens then, Mateo?
But also prevailing also have consequences. You could assault this guy, that's probably their last day on earth, they just die on the spot, then what?
Or you go to jail.
It doesn't have to be physical, guys. Just say something.
That's what you've just said, Amo.
Yeah.
You're not going to respect the guy who doesn't do
I
anything.
didn't say I'm not going to respect him. I said I will respect you even if you are beaten to the ground.
So
You,
now we
other
encounter the guy again, and he's like, yeah, I'll do it again. What are you going to do?
Hi, Bongani and Kabazela. I'm sorry, but if a man does not jump and react, I'm beating both of them up.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Switching was so quick and easy. I'm happy with the premium that I'm paying now.
Outsurance business insurance clients know that it pays to switch. And did you know you could get a guaranteed premium for 12 months even if you claim? For electrical, tradesman services, and all other businesses. Get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Are you or someone you know visually impaired? Well, I am. My name is Ngabagazi Kyalisi and I'm a cybersecurity technician.
Ngabagazi's journey began at the Hein Wagner Academy, a specialized learning center dedicated to empowering visually impaired students.
At the academy, I was taught never to give up on my dreams. I have earned national and international certificates in the field of cybersecurity through a learnership sponsored by ABSA, and that has unlocked my potential.
The Hein Wagner Academy offers a wide range of courses, helping students gain economic independence and social connections through training, sport, recreation, and the arts. With full boarding facilities and a convenient location near shops, it's more than just an academy. It's a gateway to a brighter future.
Why wait? Visit heinwagneracademy.org and unlock your future.
Looking to upgrade your office furniture this year? Desk & Chair, the direct office furniture manufacturer, has a deal you don't want to miss. Get 5% cash back towards your existing office furniture with all purchases over 350,000 Rand. Contact Desk & Chair now for more info. Visit our newly renovated showroom in Midrand or shop online at deskandchair.co.za. Desk and Chair. Think, feel, work better. T's and C's apply.
Jack and Jill went up the hill to attend the magical Marble Family Fest. Jack went down riding rides in his crown and Jill went sneaker decorating after. They enjoyed pyrotechnics on 2 grand stages, walked whimsical paths, tumbling over after so many laughs. As for their parents, they had a good time too, sipping and eating, even got matching temporary tattoos. So get your tickets for a magical Marble Family Fest day and join Jack and Jill on 9 and 10 May. Another grand collaboration with Investec in partnership with 947.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Good day, John and 702 lenders. And as a procedure for safety and security, the presidential security services, are they not supposed to know on the guest list the names and everybody who's be there in amongst the president and so forth and so on? And then if they can get the names and so on, they can alert the secret services and to say this man is a fugitive in your country and so forth and so on. Follow up in that fashion. I'll also be interested to know how these things work. Thank you, 702 lenders. Happy day further.
Hi, John, this excuse sounds like another moment excuse. I was just walking down the road and I didn't know who my neighbor is, even though the guy is my nephew. Are we now saying a whole president just decided, yo, homies, come over? No consideration for his own security. No consideration of who those people are. I mean, Cyril needs to put the other one. I mean, the media is just letting him get away with a whole lot of this sort of nonsense.
Hi,
Really?
Dr. John and the team. Good show as always. A few years ago, myself and my husband stopped at a petrol station in Hazyview, coming back from Hazyview to Johannesburg, and my phone fell out of the car. The kind stranger that found my phone actually answered my phone, and a friend collected it who was coming through the same way, collected the phone, I think a week later or something, and I got my phone back. So there are kind people out there.
Yeah, lots of stories of kindness. We asked you the question, interactions with strangers that have just left you feeling really, really, really positive about yourself, about other people, about the country. Still got time for a few more of those. Send them our way on 072 702 1702. It's 18 minutes to 5.
EWN Sport.
So, Tolakele, lots of really good football tonight, starting with Sundowns and Chiefs here, and then Bayern Munich and PSG. We're going to need a lot of popcorn, I would think.
Absolutely, John. And the Brazilians will look to re-establish a 5-point lead at the top of the Midday Premiership standings. That's with the victory over Amakosi this evening. The Brazilians look on course to win a 9th championship in a row after Gran Gekana and his teammates claimed back-to-back wins over Polokwane City over the past week.
Yeah, obviously it was crucial for us to get back-to-back wins, considering that we drew the past games. So the confidence is back up with the lads. We obviously want to finish strong. We're all in good spirits, and we can't wait for Wednesday's game.
Chiefs are looking for a win that will solidify third place in the standings and secure qualification for next season's CAF Confed Cup. Thabo Cele has shared his thoughts ahead of the showdown at a sold-out Loftus Versfeld Stadium.
It's not been easy for us, throughout the season, but we've been pushing ourselves as a team, trying to get those results that puts us in a good situation all the time. So even the next game is a good opportunity for us, because you're playing against the team that's leading the log, So it's a good opportunity for us to take 3 points and then, it brings our morale and for the next game to eventually qualify for the African spots again.
Bayern Munich will be looking to take advantage of playing at home in order to stage a comeback in the UEFA Champions League semi-final against PSG. The defending champions won an entertaining first leg 5-4 to keep them on course to defend their title. But at the Allianz Arena, Vincent Kompany's Bavarians have an impressive record, having won 5 and lost just 2 of their 7 previous home matches against the Parisians.
It's just the highest level, You have good days and bad days. We played against each other 4 times now, and everybody has the last game in mind. But every other time we played against each other, the games were really tight, one way or another. Sometimes the defenders are on top, sometimes the attacking players are on top, but you know that for 90 minutes, 95 minutes, you have to switch on. You have to be at your best level. Who knows, tomorrow maybe.
Gianluca Prestini faces the prospect of missing Argentina's opening World Cup matches after FIFA extended his 6-game suspension for homophobic conduct to have a worldwide effect. The Benfica player was handed the ban by UEFA following accusations that he directed a slur at Real Madrid's Vinicius Jr. during February's Champions League playoff clash. The worldwide extension means Prestini would miss the defending champion's first 2 fixtures if he's selected, as the ban covers UEFA club competition games and international matches. And switching to tennis, where Emma Raducanu continues to struggle with her health, having withdrawn from the Italian Open due to a post-viral illness that has kept her off the WTA Tour for 2 months. She had been practicing in Rome since Saturday and spoke to the media just 30 minutes before formally pulling out. That's in order to avoid being fined for failure to perform her pre-tournament duties. Raducanu last played a match in Indian Wells on the 8th of March and has since missed the Miami Open and the clay courts events in Linz and Madrid because of her post-viral symptoms. Tola Gelemganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Okay, it's 14 minutes to 5. Any traffic, by the way, that you've noticed that we don't know about, please let us know on 072 702 1702. We've been telling you about problems in Irene. Let's head south and east and go to Leondale. Karabochali, where I believe we've got some difficulties.
Yeah, protests. We've been reporting on this throughout the afternoon so far. In Leondale, N3 southbound closed off to traffic approaching Berry Marais due to protests. At this stage, motorists can expect a more than an hour delay all the way from Heidelberg Road, so avoid that route at all costs. If you're heading towards Vosloorus, in Edenvale, also expect delays heading into Bedford View. R24 westbound from Edenvale Road to the Kilulis interchange. In the Joburg CBD, there's about a 20-minute delay. M1 south from Killarney Benz to the Crown interchange. Northcliffe, also slow-moving traffic on Beyers Nordia between Judges and the N1 due to faulty traffic lights. Four ways. Traffic sluggish on Winnie Mandela Drive between Witkoppen and Broad Acres, and in Irene, Pretoria, traffic remains heavily backed up approaching the intersection of Nalmepius Drive and Main Road. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
13 minutes to 5 on 702 Drive. Yeah, one more from you, although we've got plenty more. I haven't had a chance to read all of them about the kindness of strangers and interaction with people you absolutely do not know, but that somehow fill your heart with a sense of goodness and possibility. Nkosi, just one sentence, but listen to this. A car guard once gave me money for a taxi when I was stranded. And Corsi, thank you for sending us that. Going to change the topic and move to something else now and ask you this. Is there something that you used to judge people for doing and say, oh, I don't think that's particularly good, or I would never do that, that actually now you kind of understand a lot better? Okay, well, that's why they do that thing, and perhaps it extends further. You're now doing the same thing yourself. I'm just wondering, Karabo Charlie, you've got a very expectant look on your face, as if you've got a story to tell. I'd love to hear it.
Well, I used to judge my parents a lot growing up. I thought they were a bit stingy when it came to money, because when I asked for toys, maybe they were probably expensive. Maybe I would ask for like a PlayStation or some TV game, and they'll be like, no, we don't have enough money, or maybe we'll save up for it. And I wouldn't understand because my friends have them, and I'll just think my parents are stingy because they work, they have money, they always have money. I remember my dad had side hustles, so I would see money, so I thought they had money. So now as a parent, now I get it, because when my son asks me for things and I literally don't have money to pay for those expensive toys, I'm like, I should have not judged my parents.
Is your son listening?
Unfortunately, I don't think he's listening. He should be studying by now.
Okay, we'll find out when he gets home. You'll give us an update tomorrow. It's a very interesting thing, though. I mean, when you find yourself doing stuff that your parents did. How about you, Refuel Letsua, joining us on air for the first time today, but very, very busy throughout the day, putting the show together with Kabazela. Things that other people did, and you're a little bit judgmental about that, and now you think, well, I get why you're doing that, and you know what, I think I might do that too.
Good afternoon, John, and to the rest of the 702 family. It was, for me, keeping your house clean. I never understood why you would not wash the dishes, you'd not wash the walls or clean whatever, until it happened to me, because life happens. Sometimes you go through a very rough patch, you get depressed. Sometimes you don't have the time. So until it happened to me, I was like, I get it now.
Okay. How about you, Tola Kele? Very good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, John. It's definitely people that say they go to the gym to give them like
time to breathe, or just it's something they need in order to start their day. Because even for me, if I don't start at the gym, the rest of my day is already like haywire, because I just needed to plan out, even on weekends when people are like, oh no, I need to run a marathon, just to feel like a sense of achievement. I get it now. It's also nice to have like a medal to say congratulations, you did something, but you need some sort of physical activity just to help you put together all of your thoughts.
Okay, so we've got quite a few already. Things that maybe you judge people for or about in the past, and now perhaps you get it, or you've gone further and you say, you know what, that makes a whole lot of sense. I think that's the way I'm going to do it too. Give us a call on 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702. Sundowns Chiefs tonight, by the way. Apparently Loftus was sold out a while ago and is going to be absolutely packed. My sense is that the crowds are bigger in the stadiums this year. I don't know if it's still for particular matches, but there seems to me to be a real buzz around the Betway Premiership, because the title race is in fact a race and not a procession for Sundowns, as it has been over a good number of seasons now. Maybe you've got a thought about that. And when people are saying, wow, tickets are selling out, does that somehow prompt you to say, well, okay, if they're selling out, maybe I'm not going to bother? Or does it make you say, better go get one, because this is somewhere I want to be, this is something I want to see? I sense a buzz and I'm enjoying it, I must say. But I'd like your thoughts. 072-702-1702. 8 minutes to 5.
John Perlman
On 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Well, earlier in the news, you would have heard, and I mentioned it as well, that 13 million rand worth of cocaine has been seized during what police say is an intelligence-driven operation at Durban harbour. What's going on there? Obviously, we know that drugs move in and out of South Africa, but the reasons why drugs land up in Durban, for example, are not always entirely clear. So that's why we've brought in our next guest. He's been with us on this issue before. Julian Rademeyer is a senior advisor to the Global Initiative Against Transnational Crime. Mr. Rademeyer, welcome, and thanks very much for giving us your time. You put a couple of things up on X, and one of them really caught my eye. You said drug shipments are landed, repackaged, and recontainerized in Durban for onward shipment to final destinations in Europe and Australia. I thought that was intriguing. I know that South Africa is both a transit point, a logistics point for drug trafficking, and to a degree, a point where there's a community of users. But this thing of the repackaging and recontainerizing is something new for me. Tell us more about that. Good afternoon to you.
Thanks, John. Good to be with you again. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that Durban's port is probably South Africa's primary entry point, particularly for cocaine. But there are a number of drugs that flow through there. You have heroin, which has made its way from Afghanistan via Pakistan and Iran, along the Macroeconomic coast, and then down the Swahili coast into Mozambique, and then into Durban. Now, what happens with repackaging or recontainerizing of shipments is that a shipment is sent from be it a country in Latin America, one of the primary sort of source countries, so Brazil, for example, shipped to South Africa. The containers are landed. Those containers have been pre-filled with cocaine, and they include a cloned seal for onward shipment. The packages will then be repackaged in another container to disguise the shipment further, and then moved on to other ports. Australia being a particularly lucrative market, for instance, for cocaine, given the prices there.
You have another sentence in the same part of what you posted on social media. There is strong criminal protection around the port. Please say more.
Well, a lot of that ties into gang activity in Durban, and there are a number of gangs that are very involved in the drugs trade. Durban, uniquely enough, has emerged as a key hub for packaging of heroin into capsule form. It's a rather unusual way of packaging heroin. So, anything that looks like Panado capsules or Microdol capsules, various different colors. Some gangs use specific colors to mark their involvement or the product that they are sending out. And some of those have been found, as far afield as Malawi. So Durban plays a very good big role in that. There's a strong gang presence which ties into Western Cape gangs, and there are also foreign criminal elements. So you have Nigerian criminal interests, Tanzanian interests, Balkan criminal gangs who also have interests in there. And because of Durban's significance as a transit point and also as a destination point, they are very fixed on the terminals there, and there's a lot of protection that those gangs provide. There's corruption that runs very deep with both, port officials,
Right.
customs officials, and others.
You use the phrase in regard to these criminal gangs and the various drug networks have been enabled to, quote, manipulate shipping procedures. Well, what does that involve? I mean, I would assume that's customs, but is there something else?
Well, exactly. I mean, that's they have virtually untrammeled access to the port, so containers can disappear. You've got to keep in mind that Durban's port processes around 60% of all of the cargo coming into South Africa. Only a tiny fraction of those containers can be searched. So, containers will disappear within the stacks of containers, then be unpacked and repacked. Drugs can be moved off-site. We've seen, obviously other cases which have come up now at the Madlanga Commission around, questions around the storage of narcotics that have been seized. So it's a really big challenge. And I think that the quantities that are moving through Durban, we look at the 8 million rand seizure today. That's a small seizure. I mean, I think
Yes.
it's good that police made that seizure, but it's in the big picture, it's a tiny event. Cocaine production is at its highest level ever in history at the moment. So there's huge quantities of cocaine moving into Southern Africa and onwards, and there's only a fraction of that is being seized.
Thank you so much, Julian Rademacher. Insightful as always. He's with the Global Initiative Against Transnational Crime. And by the way, you can go to their website, which is globalinitiative.net, and there are detailed reports on all of the things that Julian Rademacher was talking about there. I see a report in front of me, mapping organized criminal economies in East and Southern Africa. That's just one of them. Strategic organized crime risk assessment for South Africa is another of their documents, and I strongly recommend their work too. You can, if you are intrigued by what you've heard from Julian in our relatively short conversation, go to globalinitiative.net and check out their reports in more detail if it's something that interests you. 2 minutes now to 5.
702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.
My show is about getting you informed by the time you get to the office, your place of business, or wherever you need to go. Hopefully, you have a fairly good idea what's happening in Johannesburg, in Gauteng, and around the world. We want you to be part of those water cooler conversations, and you will be part of those conversations because you'll be a better informed citizen. What I like about the 702 family and 702 land is the ecosystem that we have built, the community. It's all about connection because we may be different, but ultimately the people you talk to and the people you hear are facing issues just like you.
702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m.
It's that time of the year. Sore throats, congestion, wet and dry coughs, pain and fever. For trusted relief for you and your family, ask your pharmacist to recommend a winter survival pack from the Adcock Ingram OTC range. With products like Medikil A, Expigen, Corenza Parac, Adconapamol, Dilinct Junior and more, we have you covered this winter. Remember, Adcock Ingram OTC, sponsors of Brave.
Evolution doesn't wait. Introducing the Changan Uni S. Unexpected, unmistakable, uncompromising. Engineered to a higher standard, unlike anything in its class. Unsurprising really from China's oldest automaker. Trusted by 30 million drivers worldwide. Visit changanmotors.co.za for more. The Changan Uni S.
Changan, driven to evolve.
Jack and Jill went up the hill to attend the magical Marble Family Fest. Jack went down riding rides in his crown and Jill went sneaker decorating after. They enjoyed pyrotechnics on 2 grand stages, walked whimsical paths, tumbling over after so many laughs. As for their parents, they had a good time too, sipping and eating, even got matching temporary tattoos. So get your tickets for a magical Marble Family Fest day and join Jack and Jill on 9 and 10 May. Another grand collaboration with Investec in partnership with 947.
This is EWN.
Parliament to further probe police involvement in gang violence, and CNN's founder dies. Good afternoon, I'm Maki Molapo. Parliament is preparing to start another inquiry involving the police, but this one will focus entirely on gang-related crime and violence. The Police Portfolio Committee met today to discuss the inquiry's terms of reference as it prepares to kickstart the investigation. The start of the inquiry was delayed due to the ongoing ad hoc committee inquiry into police corruption, where police committee members also form a big part. The probe will investigate various crime dynamics, gang economies, as well as illegal firearms, drugs and extortion during its investigation. Police Committee Chairperson Ian Cameron.
Gang-related violence remains a very persistent and deeply entrenched challenge within our policing environment, particularly in certain areas such as in the Western Cape.
He says the scourge of gang violence needs a thorough investigation.
And it's therefore necessary that the committee undertakes a very focused and structured inquiry into the said matter.
The inquiry is expected to conclude in September. The Public Service Commission has exposed a web of collusion, forgery and fraud in the appointment of a former private secretary to Social Development Minister, Sisisi Dolashe. Its investigation has revealed Dolashe's special advisor, Nwako Khatla, and former chief of staff, Zanele Simmons, manipulated information and were not truthful about the experience of Khatla's niece, who was hired. PSC chairperson Somadoda Fikeni has today told Parliament's Portfolio Committee its investigation has revealed multiple violations in the appointment of staff. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
Presenting the eagerly awaited findings of an investigation into the then 22-year-old Lesedi Mabelecha's appointment, the PSC confirmed she did not possess the required qualifications nor experience and lied about this on her CV. PSC chairperson Somadoda Fikeni says it is particularly concerning that the Human Resources Department was complicit in the approvals process.
There were many role players here, and they seem to have coordinated in the embellishment of facts.
Fikeni was also scathing about officials whom he said had been uncooperative in the investigation and said he has little hope the minister will get the truth from them either.
Some officials have the potential of misleading her, so it can then be the same ecosystem that will assist her in the process.
Tolashe has asked the PSC for an extension until next week to respond to the report's findings. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
We move to the courts, where Parliament has rejected allegations that the people of the Western Cape were denied an opportunity to meaningfully participate in the making of the National Health Insurance legislation. The Western Cape's government's case to the Constitutional Court is based on timelines which it says were insufficient, as it had additional public hearings to conduct. It has also argued that it was not given the opportunity to participate in the National Health Insurance legislative process. It's asking the court to determine whether these mechanisms were adequate or whether the alleged gaps undermine the constitutional obligation for meaningful public participation. Dimakazo Leshoro has more.
In its defense, Parliament is arguing that the NCOP Select Committee lawfully proceeded with adopting the bill after completing its public participation process. The committee adopted the NHI bill on the 21st of November 2023, despite not having a final mandate or a report on the public hearings from the Western Cape. Advocate Nwako Maineche, who represents Parliament, maintains the absence of a mandate does not invalidate the broader legislative process. He says there's no evidence the law was rushed through Parliament.
Any representative for any province could have said they could have raised amendments if they were to be amendments. One can't infer that because they don't raise amendments, they are all colluding to get this done quickly.
Maineche says the constitutional standard does not require unanimous provincial input at every stage. Dimakatso Leshoro, Eyewitness News at the Constitutional Court.
In the Western Cape, flight operations at George Airport are continuing as normal despite stormy weather across the Garden route. Airports company South Africa says flights have not been affected but is advising passengers to check directly with their airlines for the latest updates. The company adds that airport operations are being closely monitored and any changes will be communicated. Meanwhile, the region's head of disaster management, Gerard Otto, says heavy rainfall is expected to continue throughout today into the early hours of tomorrow.
Rain is still intensified right through the entire district, mainly on our eastern areas and areas that has reported a lot of rain, and also some rivers flooding is Knysna and Plet, as well as some areas in the Langkloof.
Otto says the Pisang Valley River in Plettenberg Bay has burst its bank, prompting evacuations of residents living nearby.
In addition to that, there's also some of the sewer pump stations as well as water infrastructure damaged, and engineers and engineering technicians is working to try and re-establish these connections as soon as possible.
And in news making international headlines, CNN founder Ted Turner has passed away aged 87. According to a news release by Turner Enterprises, the media mogul and philanthropist died surrounded by his family earlier today. Turner was married 3 times, including to actress Jane Fonda. He's survived by his 5 children. Gold's trading at $4,702.19 an ounce. The rand's at 16.39 to the dollar, at 22.29 to the pound, at 19.26 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $102.04 a barrel.
In Polshof, you can expect more than a 30-minute delay. This is on Witkoppen Road between Main Road and Stonehaven, while in Northcliffe there's slow-moving traffic on Peyers-Nordia between Judges and the N1 due to faulty traffic lights, and in Midrand bumper-to-bumper traffic on Allendale Road between Old Pretoria Road and Mastiff.
In your sport, Orlando Pirates hoping that Kaizer Chiefs can be an ally as the Glamour Boys take on Mamelodi Sundowns in the Betway Premiership tonight. PSG and Bayern Munich brace for a high-scoring UEFA Champions League rematch, and Lee Halfpenny to retire from rugby at the end of the season.
A look at your weather. A partly cloudy Thursday in store for Gauteng with isolated showers and thunder showers expected tomorrow. Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 7 degrees and peak at highs of 14. Pretoria is at 8 and 17. Vereeniging also at lows of 8 degrees, reaching highs of 14 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. Parliament is preparing to start another inquiry involving the police, but this one will focus entirely on gang-related crime and violence.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
We're calling on Joburg to walk the inner city with us. In 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk. Babize bonke. Enter now on primemediaplus.com.
702.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 9 minutes past 5. It's good to have you with us for the final hour of the show. A quite extraordinary letter written by the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, to the Executive Mayor of Johannesburg, Councillor Dada Morero. The headline on the letter, or the heading, shall I say, says, transgression of the budget laws and associated regulatory instruments by the City of Johannesburg Metropolitan Municipality. It's 3.5 pages, but it's fair to say that there is a political and financial landmine, more than a few on every single page. We're going to go through this in considerable detail, because the implications, not just for the city, but I think arguably for the country as well, are really, really huge. We have asked the Mayor's office to send someone who could perhaps join us in a conversation about this. There appears to be no denial of the authenticity of the letter. It's been confirmed by Vincent Magwenya, presidential spokesperson, because there is a presidential entity that is looking at the city of Johannesburg. But we'll go through this kind of page by page, not necessarily line by line, and look at what's contained there. It's troubling stuff. Coming up a little bit later as well, we asked you to please tell us what your favorite heavy metal band is. We'll tell you why we're asking this particular question on this particular day a little bit later. And in the light of what you heard a moment ago from Maki Molapo, the passing of Ted Turner, the creator of CNN, we'll hear from him in his own words, what he had in mind when he brought CNN to so many people around the world's screens. All that and more. We did ask you as well, by the way, is there something that you used to judge people for and then you ended up either supporting, understanding that point of view, or in fact joining them in it? Muhlomi manages to take a light-hearted view of this and says, I'm an ardent Pirates fan and I used to be judgmental towards Chiefs supporters. Today, I am supporting Chiefs. Well, for 90 minutes at least, they desperately need, the Buccaneers do, for Amakosi to take 3 points off Sundowns. Here's some other versions of your responses to the question I asked.
Afternoon, Dr. John and team. I used to judge people that drive leaving a space of one car or two cars in front of them, especially in traffic. That was until I got into an accident myself because of following someone from too close a distance, and I bumped into them and their car was fine and mine was badly damaged. Since then, 2 cars distance, 1 car distance between me and the car in front of me. I also used to judge my mother because she eats pap a lot when she comes back from work. I used to say, can we not eat something better? But ever since I started going to work myself, I need pap to survive because, it's tough.
Good afternoon, Dr. John and the listeners. It's Prudence here. So I used to judge my mother for having a fitted sheet in the bed as well as a flat sheet. And now I was telling my colleagues that last week I went to the shops to go look for a final sheet, a winter sheet. Because as life would have it, when I make my bed, I now have a fitted sheet followed by a flat sheet, a blanket, and whatever cover that I have. So yes, before I used to judge my mom and think, she's so old, why do we sleep with sheets? And now I'm the person who's doing it, even looking for a good deal and changing my sheets because it's winter, looking for a final material sheet. So, yep, that's me. Great show as always.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much indeed. We also, by the way, have a couple of comments in response to the question I was asking about President Cyril Ramaphosa meeting with a number of people in the course of his engagement with Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa. At issue was Zimbabwean businessman Wicknell Chivayo. His assets have been frozen in South Africa. He's under investigation, we understand, by the Hawks for a number of things. I asked the question as to whether there's surely some screening or at least advance warning for the protocol team of the president when he's going to a meeting to know exactly who's going to be there. Kelvin thinks that's not fair and says this: to be fair to President Cyril Ramaphosa, there's no way he was going to know the people he was going to meet, as he was an invited guest and the people he was meeting was a delegation of President Mnangagwa. I stay with my point. If you are invited, you want to know who else is going to be there. You don't do that for dinner parties necessarily, but when you're the president of the country in the public spotlight. Let me continue nevertheless with Kelvin. The alleged person is an associate of President Mnangagwa. He is always in these meetings of heads of state, and he is under investigation by South African authorities, but not wanted yet. Kelvin, with that view, let's get yours on this or anything else on 072 702 1702 14 past 5. Better see what's happening in the traffic, eh?
EWN Traffic.
And this EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS the word out to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Problems in Paulshof, possibly in other places as well. Here's Karabo Charlie.
Yeah, Paulshof, you can expect about a 30-minute delay on Witkoppen Road between Main Road and Stonehaven. while in Midrand, bumper-to-bumper traffic on Allendale Road between Old Pretoria Road and Mastiff. Northcliffe, slow-moving traffic still on Bayers Nordia between Judges and the N1 due to faulty traffic lights, while in Jet Park, traffic heavily backed up heading towards East Rand Mall. That's Boksburg on the R21 southbound Rietfontein Road between Griffiths and North Rand Road, while in Leondale, protests on the N3 southbound approaching Berry Marais, causing heavy delays all the way from Heidelberg Road. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Outsurance Pointsmen can't help you understand your partner's love language, but they can help you get home in time for that family dinner. Seeing them on your route just makes you feel better. The Outsurance Pointsmen have been easing traffic congestion so everyone gets where they need to be quickly and safely for the past 20 years. With Outsurance, you really always get something out. In proud partnership with 702, show them some love online using #PointsmenLove. Licensed insurer and FSP.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes on 702.
My show is about your money, and it's about how people have made their money. But it's also about what happened to your money today, what happened on the JSE, what's happening overseas. All of these things, all about the way in which people make their money, spend their money, use their money, and in so many ways, use their money to make more money for them. What I absolutely love about the 702 family and 702 land is the huge warmth of people, the generosity that they show. But I also absolutely love the hustle. Anyone in business is actually trying to improve the economy. They're trying to have an impact on all of us. And there's a go-getting attitude to 702 land that you don't see in so many other places. That's what I really love about 702 land. That getting together and doing something new, and in the process, making money.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes. Weekdays from 6 to 8 p.m.
Get yourself, your friends, and your family together to make magical memories at the Magical Marble Family Fest this 9 and 10 May at James and Ethel Gray Park. Whether you're a mom or a dad, a kid or a grandparent, even toddlers, tweens, and teens, the creators of the luxurious marble circus have created something spectacular for each and every one of you at the Magical Marble Family Fest. Get your tickets at magicalmarblefamilyfest.com. Another grand collaboration with Investec in partnership with 947.
It's 6 a.m. in Kenya. Victor's little sister starts high school today, but her fees need to be paid first. Back in Jersey, Victor logs onto the Absa banking app and sends her money and a little extra for lunch. It arrives instantly.
Your money makes their world go round. Send cash to 18 countries across the world with Absa Global Pay. It's safe, instant, and affordable. Your story matters. Absa is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
My fellow South Africans, you have spoken and we have listened. We understand the severity of your situation. And we know you are tired. We are all tired. But something bigger and better is coming. Your chance is finally coming home. Stay tuned. Keep watching. We'll talk soon. I thank you.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
19 minutes past 5. The letter is dated the 23rd of April 2026. It's signed by Enoch Godongwana, MP, Minister of Finance, and it's addressed to Councillor Dada Morero, the Executive Mayor, City of Johannesburg Metropolitan Municipality. As I said, it's about 3.5 pages. But what is contained in those pages, I think, raises extremely serious questions about the state of the finances of the city of Johannesburg. The letter covers a range of issues. It talks about failure to comply with the requirements of the municipal regulations on municipal standard chart of accounts. In other words, it says the systems just for tracking the way the city's money comes in and goes out in terms of spending are simply not working anywhere near as well as they should. Let's talk about some of the issues raised in the letter then, and welcome Ferial Hafachi, Associate Editor of Daily Maverick. Ferial, I'm going to go to the third page because I think this is where the tone of the letter, to me, becomes the most severe. It talks about imminent unsustainable salary adjustments, references the fact that the city signed an agreement with SAWU last November, committing to 10.3 billion rand in salary increases. And then it goes on to say, you have committed the city into a financial obligation that is not possible to fulfill. It refers to this as a direct transgression of the MFMA and budget and reporting regulations. This is an extraordinary committing into writing of a major concern from National Treasury. How does the city of Joburg explain this away, if it can?
It's a bombshell letter. It's couched in government language, but it effectively says Joburg is bankrupt.
Yes.
And it instructs the minister to stop this, the implementation of this wage deal that was signed. Remember, November 2025 is just ahead of the G20 summit, and we all know that's why it was signed, because workers said they're going to use that moment as leverage to take to the streets.
Presumably the national government knew that this was happening. I mean, is this not all too late? Because if you go on to read the next paragraph, they say, you hereby directed to stop proceeding with the implementation of this illegally signed agreement that has the potential to destroy the sustainability of the city of Johannesburg beyond this term of office, as well as the negative impact on the national economy at large. Presumably the city of Joburg and its executive mayor are in the dock on this one, but surely national government has to stand alongside them?
It must. Remember that the city it's under soft administration by a presidential working group,
right,
who are right in the heart of the city. They're working there in work streams. They have access to, they have eyes on every single cent in the city. They have access to all its strategic agreements. They knew about this politically facilitated agreement, the PFA. That's the title of the wage agreement, which was reached with Samoa. So they definitely knew what was happening. And I think if you look at the time, they just needed the G20 to happen.
I want to go to this thing then. I mean, failure to pay creditors within 30 days in terms of the Municipal Finance Management Act. These numbers are absolutely extraordinary, and I must share them with the listeners. Outstanding amount owed to creditors, and I'm paraphrasing here, increased from 17 billion rand for the 2020-23 financial year to 25.2 billion rand in 2024-25. The city's cash and cash equivalent in the same period, 24-25, is 3.9 billion. The total size of the debt is 25.2 billion. Again, surely the alarm bells should have been sounded long and strong from national government. I get that the city is in the dock here, but again, I make the point, they can't be there alone.
They would definitely have known about this, but remember there's another step here that we need to take account of. In terms of the Constitution, it really is the province which should be watching this month by month.
Yes.
And earlier I messaged the office of the MEC in charge of infrastructure and of intergovernmental relations in Gauteng, asked the spokesperson. I haven't heard back from them. So it's the province which is the big eyes on the councils or on metropolitan governments. They in turn are the ones who need to alert the national government to what's happening. In this case is obviously the Treasury, if you read, as you have very closely read, but there were meetings with the Treasury where they alerted them. They said, look, we can see what's coming here. We see what's happening. You need to give us this information. And then that was never forthcoming.
Ferial, I want to just turn to the implications. And now this is something that didn't just come up recently, but this was an earlier meeting, established that the JRA, and we all talk about the state of the roads, but the JRA is also involved in the fixing of various aspects of our bulk services. An amount of 708 0.6 million rand is reflected for the JRA to fund capital expenditure. It is not backed by cash in the bank within JRA. This raises surely crucial questions about whenever we ask about infrastructure failure and we're told, no, there's a plan to spend money. They're saying this money does not exist. I don't know if I'm reading it too literally.
You are reading it completely right. It's absolutely gobsmacking is that it's written in the budget that this is the capex available for roads, but it's not in the bank. And you have to ask yourself where it is. Huh?
Well, you have to ask yourself where it is, but you also have to ask yourself about political and accountability systems where people can say, oh, I'm going to spend 710 million rand on this when the money is not there. I mean, it seems oversight is failing at every level, and I wonder what opposition political parties would say about their role.
I think, the Section 79 committees, they get the document saying this is what's available there. The Treasury now reveals to us that actually it's simply not there. It's a fabrication. There's a lot of fabrication if you read the text of this letter. There's another point I wanted to share with you where they say there are basically two sets of accounts across the same entity. It's just replete with quite unbelievable Wild West financial bookkeeping here. Huh?
What happens next? I mean, I don't know where you want to begin, because on the one hand there's the political fallout, but there's the much more fundamental and I would suggest much more important stuff about what is a city that your interpretation of this letter is that is bankrupt in a very fundamental way. What does it do about all the things that are breaking and need fixing?
Well, if you just drive around or like you live in it like we do, it doesn't get fixed.
Yes.
So what could happen now is, there's a Section 139 of the Constitution where the city can be placed under administration. That's unlikely to happen. At a briefing this afternoon, the candidate for the DA, Helen Ziller, said she thought, reading between the lines, is that what will happen is the city will be placed under financial administration. You'll see in the very last paragraph, the Finance Minister, Godongwana, says that they may withhold equitable grant. That's what the national government gives to the metro, and at the moment that's 8 billion rand. If that happens, then things do get substantially worse, if that's even possible.
And just finally, at some point, and we did, by the way, invite the executive mayor, but also the executive mayor's office to come and engage with us. I believe we may be getting something recorded from there. What's the next step? Does national government step in more decisively? Politically, something's got to happen here, but of course that doesn't mean it will.
So the next step is that they then have to answer the finance minister. The mayor is going to put out a statement now, and I hope you get that before the show ends.
Yes.
Then they're going to have to make a decision on the wage deal. You would have seen that COSATU has already put out a statement saying there'll be hell to play if they try and retract the agreement which has been reached, and some of the money's already been paid out. So that does raise real risks for the city. If you have a huge strike happening on top of an already really a dangerous infrastructure failures. There were almost like 1 million outages, our City News reported, looking at, I think, at the past 2.5 quarters or so.
Thanks so much, Ferial Hafaji, Associate Editor at Daily Maverick. You can look all over online and just type in the words Enoch Godongwana letter Dada Murero, and you'll get a full transcript of this. I'm sure it'll come up on a Google search, and have a read for yourself. Make up your own mind. 29 minutes past 5.
EWN Business.
JSE numbers somewhat better than Joburg's numbers. Stephen Critis, good afternoon to you.
John, good afternoon. Not very often that me sitting at the finance desk has better news to say than you sitting where you are. But today might well be one of those days. That's because oil prices are down so dramatically. They're down by about 7%. And the reason for that is sources in Pakistan suggesting the US and Iran are close to some kind of agreement. It will be a one-page memorandum. I mean, John, I don't know if you end a conflict as complicated like this with one page, but, then the US President Donald Trump also saying today that if Iran sticks to what it's sort of agreeing to, things will be fine after that and that the war would essentially stop. So that's pushed oil prices down. That's pushed the oil share up 3.6%, 119,166 points. Financials up 2.25%. Industrials up 2.5%. But resources so much stronger because gold and platinum are much stronger. Gold is up by 3%, platinum's up by over 4%, resources as a whole up 6.46% on the JSE today. Siboney up 10.41% today, helped of course by an update from them. They said that their EBITDA will be up by over 370% during the last quarter because their platinum operations are really benefiting from higher platinum prices. Harmony's up 9.63%, and then Volterra and Implat's up by about 9%, Goldfields, DLD Gold up by around 8%, and on it goes in the miners. Some losers, of course, Sasol down 7.32%, Exxaro down 3%, Tungela 2.78%, and Glencore down 0.98%. These are all shares that benefited from the sort of higher oil price. And if this all continues and the peace does hold, might kind of going back to normal levels. Also, whatever normal is nowadays. Quantum Foods also reporting their headline earnings per share will be up by between 12 and 20% for the 6 months to the end of March. Strong demand for chicken. Chicken feed was cheaper. They sold 4% more eggs, but egg prices were down by 9% during the period. And John, we've seen that in the food price numbers we get from Stats SA that egg prices have been down. They've been deflationary. The US driven really by hopes of the Middle East, of peace in the Middle East, but also optimism over AI. The Dow Jones is up 1.25%, the Nasdaq is up 1.41%, and the S&P 500 is up 1.17% on the day. The gold price much higher, $4,701.67 an ounce. Platinum, $2,046.90. Brent crude now, it's been slipping down. It's down 7.6% on the day, $101.69. It's going to keep Karabo in business for quite some time. The rand to the dollar much stronger, John. 16.40 to the euro, 19.26 to the British pound, 22.30. On the Money Show tonight, the latest, we'll carry on the conversation you've been talking about with Ferrell Haffajee around the city of Joburg and Enoch Orangwana's letter. Also look at this issue. What is the legal situation? Can the city renege on a signed agreement with workers? I think it's such a big issue. I can understand Kasatu and other people's views, but can they actually do it? And then your extra special shapeshifter tonight is Edward Kieswetter, the person who led the charge to reform SARS. Really looking forward to that conversation from 7:30. Stephen Critis, EWN Business.
Terrific interview in Prospect, part of the Money Show between 6 and 8. To the news desk we go one more time. Marky Mulapo guiding us through what's been happening here in other parts of the world. Good afternoon.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. Police in KwaZulu-Natal say today's drug bust at the Durban harbour speaks to the efficiency of the active crime intelligence-driven operations. Officers recovered a consignment of drugs worth 13 million rand inside a bus that was shipped into the country from Brazil this morning. The drugs, which are now in the possession of police, are believed to have been destined for Gauteng province. Spokesperson Robert Nechunda spoke to Eyewitness News, saying today that the discovery was a result of investigations into a bust made in Johannesburg last month.
The bus is going to Gauteng province. So we are investigating whether the person who ordered buses is responsible for the drugs, or along the way there were people who tampered with the buses and put drugs in there. We are also investigating the origin of the consignment.
Nechunda says the harbour is manned by dedicated police officers who are tasked to prevent drugs from entering the streets, praising police for their work.
But we are quite pleased that even these drugs, nobody said we are coming with drugs. It's police work to detect that this vessel has got drugs.
At least one person has died due to stormy weather conditions in the Western Cape. A woman was killed when an uprooted tree fell on her car in Knysna. Persistent rainfall and strong winds have caused dozens of trees to uproot along the garden route, while flooding has also led to several road closures. The region's head of disaster management, Gerard Otto, says is rather urging the public to be extremely cautious.
Unfortunately, this morning we had a fatality of somebody parked under a big tree and the tree collapsed. This current weather situation normally leads to some of the trees in the area being uprooted, specifically when we've got high winds.
Former Health Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma says the legal challenge against the National Health Insurance Act in the Constitutional Court is aimed at preserving inequality in access to health care. Dlamini-Zuma says those opposing the NHI are benefiting from the current system. Her comments come as the Board of Healthcare Funders, which represents medical aids and the Western Cape government, challenged the act, seeking to have it set aside. The applicants argued there was no meaningful public participation in the process leading to the passing of the bill. Meanwhile, at least 15 other legal challenges opposing the act are on hold pending the outcome of the Constitutional Court case.
What's happening here, unfortunately, is people who want to stop that, who want to keep the inequalities that exist. This act is about doing away with those inequalities. So those who are opposing it, in my view, want to keep the inequalities because they benefit from it.
And in news-making international headlines, CNN founder Ted Turner has passed away aged 87. According to a news release by Turner Enterprises, the media mogul and philanthropist died surrounded by his family earlier today. Turner was married 3 times, including to actress Jane Fonda. He is survived by his 5 children. A look at your weather. A partly cloudy Thursday in store for Gauteng with isolated showers and rain expected tomorrow. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows of 7 and 8 degrees and peak at highs between 14 and 17 degrees.
In Roodepoort, you can expect about a 20-minute delay on Dekkers. That's between Golf Club Terrace and Corlett Avenue. Polshof, also about a 30-minute delay on Witkoppen Road between Main Road and Stonehaven. Boksburg, there's traffic pressure on Jet Park Road between Croft Road and North Rand Road due to faulty traffic lights.
The top story in Eyewitness News. Police in KwaZulu-Natal say today's drug bust at the Durban harbour speaks to the efficiency of their active crime intelligence-driven operations.
The Clement Manyatela Show on 702.
The Clement Manyatela Show is about everything. It's about current affairs, family matters, the work environment, your health and wellness, relationship and sex issues that couples face. It's about learning, helping each other, healing, teaching. It's about life in essence. What I like about the 702 family and 702 land is that we are quite intentional about doing life together. We're always pulling through for each other, learning from each other, always teaching each other. We're not scared to disagree, but also we're brave enough to be vulnerable with each other. We just care about each other, and I think that is priceless.
The Clement Manyatela Show, weekdays from 9 to 12 p.m.
Preparing your business for its next serious growth phase? Consider WeWork, built for teams that want to grow up and glow up. At WeWork, your team gets space to focus, space to meet, and space to think big. From turnkey private offices and meeting rooms to on-site support, high-speed Wi-Fi and printers that just work. Whether you're scaling fast or starting up, WeWork does it properly. Book a free guided tour at wework.co.za. Made for work, built for business.
Mavis, I wonder if I should sell my car. I'm not sure where to go.
Wanna sell your car, but don't know what to do. You don't have to go far, we come to you. If you're rolling on a 1.5 or a Lacquer 2.2, doesn't matter what you drive, we buy cars once you.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
Joburg audiences are loving Pretty Woman the musical. Don't miss the Broadway and West End smash hit, packed with romance, laughter, and the unforgettable music of Bryan Adams. Now on stage at Monte Casino's Teatro for a limited season only until 31 May. Book your seats now at showtime.co.za. Beyond the movie, Pretty Woman, the love story you know, the musical you'll never forget. Brought to you by Showtime Management.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
702 Drive. So quite a few of you are talking about the issues raised by that letter from Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana to the Executive Mayor of Joburg, Councillor Dada Murero. I mentioned that in the course of us asking if the Executive Mayor could come on the show, they said they would, as a first step, be releasing comments from the Executive Mayor. So let's take a listen to those.
The letter was received by my office last week, and I immediately had a conversation with the Minister on Friday last week about the contents of the letter, and we have agreed, therefore, that we will have a formal engagement between ourselves as the city and the Minister of Finance so that we can clear some of the issues that have been raised in the letter, which I suppose the city does have reports to respond to the issues as raised by the minister. And it must also be made clear that the minister has a responsibility to, from time to time, engage with municipalities on particular issues that relate to management of finances in all the municipalities. And I suppose he has written to the city, and the city is duty-bound to give response to the issues as raised by the minister, and will not shy away from articulating on those issues as raised by the minister. Hopefully the meeting will soon be confirmed by his office, as I've already made an official request for a meeting with the minister to clear some of the issues that has been raised. So to the residents, there's nothing to panic about at this stage. Matters that are in the city, we are duly in control and will be able to give a satisfactory response to the minister. And post that meeting, we will give a feedback to the residents of Johannesburg.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you clear these issues. Let me just read you part of one sentence in this 3.5-page letter. The city's cash and cash equivalent of 3.9 billion rand in 2024-25 is insufficient to repay outstanding creditors of 25.2 billion rand. I'm not sure what the basis for residents to feel reassured about that. The other is the commitment to 10.3 billion rand in salary increases, which the letter raises. And there's a sentence which is pretty emphatic in my view and steps well beyond the kind of rather more polite language of governmentese that characterizes most of the letter in regard to that salary increase. You are hereby directed to stop proceeding with the implementation of this illegally signed agreement that has the potential to destroy the sustainability of the city of Johannesburg beyond this term of office, as well as the negative impact on the national economy at large. I'd love to believe a meeting can clear that, as the executive mayor suggests, but candidly, I think it's going to take quite something more substantial than that. Anyway, we watch, as I always say, with considerable interest. 17 minutes to 6.
EWN Sport.
Tola Kele, you note that we have a new football club called Soweto United.
Absolutely, John. And Orlando Pirates will be hoping that Kaizer Chiefs can do them a favor and beat Mamelodi Sundowns in the Midday Premiership. The Buccaneers are 2 points behind the Brazilians in the title race and are counting on favors as they bid to end the Pretoria side's 8-year reign as league champions. Thabo Cele has discussed what they expect from the clash as they search for a first league win over the Brazilians since 2021.
It's a good team to play against because they are very tactical and technical, and the way they play, they have a lot of patience, It's a mind game, and I love those games. They were going to want to have a lot of the ball because that's how they create their chances, and that's how they avoid transitions, So we're looking to get an opportunity when we break, but also when we get into their half, we also want to keep the ball, because that's what they use to win games.
With less than a month left in the season, the Brazilians could finish the campaign with the League and CAF Champions League double as they take on AS FAR in the Continental Final. Grant Gekana says Sundowns are not looking too far ahead as none of their remaining games will be a walk in the park.
No, obviously we're taking it one game at a time. The focus right now is KZ Chiefs. When we get to the final, that's when we'll be able to prepare and focus on it. But right now in the immediate, our main focus is definitely the game against KZ Chiefs. And we'll be looking to be as well prepared as we can so that we can get a positive outcome on the day.
Vincent Kompany will not be stopping his Bayern Munich players from fully expressing themselves when they take on PSG in the second leg of the UEFA Champions League semi-final. Defence was non-existent in the first game as the title holders ran out 5-4 winners. And ahead of the rematch at the Allianz Arena tonight, Kompany is expecting more of the same.
I think my biggest role is to support them in this, give them a framework that allows everyone to play a part. Will the players be allowed to make decisions on the pitch? You can't decide whether we press or not as a team. That's what we do, that's who we are. But in the moments, if you decide to shoot or cross or pass the ball, the main job of every teammate is to offer a solution. The main job of every teammate is, if someone takes a shot, to follow the shot or to react, to control the counter-attack. All these things, there's a lot of roles that you have to respect.
And Wales fullback Lee Halfpenny will retire from rugby at the end of the season as he brings down the curtain on a career spanning nearly 2 decades. The 37-year-old won the last of his 101 caps back in 2023 and also made 4 test appearances across 3 British and Irish Lions tours. Tolagele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
14 minutes to 6. This EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now. And you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Karabo Charlie with the latest from the roads. Good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, John. Well, let me start in Roodepoort, where we have about a 20-minute delay on Deckers Road. This is between Golf Club Terrace and Corlett Avenue. Poles off, you can still expect about a 20-minute delay on Witkoppen Road between Main Road and Stonehaven, while in the Joburg CBD heading into Boysens. There's also about a 20-minute delay on the M1 southbound from Killarney Bends to the Crown Interchange. Boksburg, traffic pressure on Jet Park Road between Croft Road and North Rand Road. Still in Ekurhuleni, Jet Park, heading towards East Rand Mall. You can expect heavy delays on the R21 southbound. That's Rietfontein Road between Griffiths and North Rand Road. And in Benoni, Boksburg area, traffic sluggish on Atlas Road. That's between Elizabeth and Top Road. That's if you're approaching the N12 this evening. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Things people stress about in traffic. Number 52.
Did the kids actually do their holiday homework, or are they going to make it my homework?
Oh, the drama. Well, with the Outsurance Pointsman on your route, at least the traffic is one less thing to stress about. The Outsurance Pointsmen have been easing traffic congestion so we all get to where we need to be quickly and safely for the past 20 years. With Outsurance, you really always get something out. In partnership with 702, Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. The Aubrey Masangu Show on 702.
I cover on my show issues of advisory, whether it is legal matters, whether it is financial matters. I cover day-to-day issues as far as current affairs are concerned. I cover the politics of the day and how we as South Africans are interpreting them. My listener is a curious 702 lander. They want to know what are the backstories, the stories behind what we are hearing on the airwaves. They want to understand what drives the different issues that have us talking. What I love about the 702 family and 702 Land is the fact that we have 702 landers who are responsive, who are present, who care about their communities and who want to know how they can be a part of the process of making our areas better, but also our country better. And that for me is a great privilege. I am totally indebted to the providence out there to be talking to these people on a daily basis.
The Aubrey Masangu Show. Weekdays from 8 to midnight. 702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, John. Andre from Pretoria. I just wanted to say that at the time when the DA opposed this and when the DA raised the red flags and when Helen Zille said the same thing, that this deal would make the city of Johannesburg bankrupt. A whole lot of things. There were a lot of shaming. There were a whole lot of derogatory things said about her and the DA. and even the race card was turned. But also the fact that it was the DA saying it, and the DA is opposing the working class, and the DA is only for the affluent class. A lot of things were positioned against Hella and the DA for bringing this up. And yet now the truth comes out, and lo and behold, what's going to be done now?
Hi, John. I just want to find out quickly, is this the same mayor who was rating himself? Was it a distinction the other day in terms of how he's doing, knowing that this was going on in the background? I mean, what is that? What's going on in his head?
Hi, John. I love the way Dada Moreira says he's going to have a meeting with the Minister of Finance to clear up, in inverted commas, the issues on the table. How precisely is he going to sort out the issue of 24 billion rand owed to creditors and cash equivalents of about 4 billion rand on hand? Just needs to tell us where he's going to find the 20 billion from. And if memory serves me correctly, I think Cilliers Brink brought up a similar issue in Swanee, where the Swanee mayor also signed a deal with one of the trade unions there that was also going to take the city of Tshwane into massive billion rands worth of debt. Lesia from Benoni.
Thanks. Many of you responding there to the comments made by Executive Mayor Dada Moreira. Very brief voice note. It actually was sent to us in the form of a video. Not that that makes any particular difference to the content. And then there, of course, is the letter from Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana to the Executive Mayor dated 23 April. Thanks for those comments. Big story, huge story. And what do you think of story angles that we're going to be exploring tomorrow? It's 9 minutes now to 6.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
So much earlier in the show, we asked you about your favorite heavy metal band, and we were prompted to do that because a documentary has come out called Iron Maiden, Burning Ambition. And what is it celebrating? They have been making music since 1975. It's absolutely extraordinary. They've been going for more than 5 decades, more than 50 years. So to get us going and set it up for you to contemplate and consider who your all-time favorite heavy metal band would be, here's something from their 4th album. Came out in 1983. I'll tell you later how many albums they've actually put out since then. It was called Peace of Mind. The album with peace spelled P-I-E-C-E. Here's The Trooper. Sound of vocalist Bruce Dickinson, Iron Maiden, the 4th of their 41 albums, and that one's called The Trooper. So while it rings in your ears, put your mind to it. Your best ever heavy metal band. Share that with us on 072 702 1702.
Afternoons with Relebogile Mabodja.
702 Afternoons is about all things in life. From music to inspiration, we get an opportunity to explore science, mental health, food. I almost feel like there's nothing we don't do on my show. One of the things I absolutely love about 702 Land and the 702 family is that we are so sharing. We share tears, laughs, smiles. We share in the amazing times and celebrate together as well. We have a range of topics, but when it comes to what we do cover on the show, absolutely everything. My listener listener is somebody who wants to grow, evolve, develop. They're empathetic, they are loving. They are so special that even when they don't have, they come through and share, and more importantly, they know how to walk the talk.
702 Afternoons with Relebogile Mapoja. Weekdays from 1 to 3 p.m.
Being in construction has taught me that buying machinery doesn't come cheap. Loaders, excavators, graders, they're the heartbeat of the job site. Now, thanks to My Way Business Insurance, I save up to 20% on my insurance premiums every month. This saving helps keep my machines working and projects moving.
Switch to My Way Business Insurance and save up to 20% on your yellow metal machinery. Real businesses, real savings. Call us on 0860 646464 today for a quote. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. Standard rates and T's and C's apply.
Illegal water connections have serious consequences for the city's water supply. When pipelines are tampered with, it damages infrastructure, reduces system pressure, and can leave entire communities without water. Johannesburg Water continues to remove illegal connections and strengthen monitoring across the network to protect supply. Residents are encouraged to report illegal connections or suspicious activity to the City of Johannesburg on 0800 002 587. Protect our water infrastructure. Protect our water supply. Brought to you by Johannesburg Water, a water and sanitation utility that cares.
Joburg is more than just a city. It's a home for dream creators, operators and change makers. In celebration of this, 702 has partnered with Jozi My Jozi to unite the whole of Joburg in the 702 Jozi My Jozi Walk the Talk. Babize Bonke. On Sunday, 26 July, we're going on a walk through the Joburg CBD, and we want you to join us and be a part of something special. Enter now on primemediaplus.com and get ready for 702, the 702 Jozi My Jozi Walk the Talk, hosted by the City of Johannesburg. Walk with the people, for our Jozi. More on primemediaplus.com.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Good afternoon, John. It's Paul here. You mentioned speaking about our favorite heavy metal bands. Well, without a doubt, my favorite heavy metal band has to be Metallica. I started listening to them back in high school in 1986, 87, and I still listen to them today. But on top of them, there's just so many other great bands like Black Sabbath, Slayer, Exodus, Testament. I could go on and on about the bands, but I think I'll leave it there. Thanks. Bye.
Metallica from 1991, the song Enter Sandman. $1 Million Man says, just give it to Dire Straits and shut this poll. Wrong category? Dire Straits, heavy metal, not to my ear at least. This is probably more on track from Perry, who says, no. Where's Perry? Here we go. This is the one. No, I'm looking for the right one. Roger, thank you, because we've already had Metallica. Perry, thank you for that, but we're not going to play him twice. Here's Roger. Black Sabbath and the song Paranoid. Probably quite appropriate, actually. Sound of Black Sabbath there, the song Paranoid, bringing to an end today's edition of 702 Drive. Stop banging your heads against the steering wheel now. Yeah, great song there, actually reminded me of my early teens. But that's all we got time for. Hope you've enjoyed being with us as much as we've enjoyed having you along. From me, John Perlman, good night.
And now, The Money Show.
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
And DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa Business Banking, featuring the